Brighton in all yellow for this one, with the black pinstripes, the black numbers on the back. It is Brighton who kick off in this FA Cup, this Emirates FA Cup fifth round tie here at a spring-like St James's Park on this Sunday afternoon. 1:45 kick-off time. I hope that hasn't caught you out. And Newcastle playing the ball forward all the way through to Bruggen. So the teams for this one, Newcastle making 6 changes actually from Anfield in the week. But here come Brighton with their first attack of the match, with Mitoma down the left-hand side. Running you through the teams in a moment, but this Brighton attack takes precedence, of course. Estupinian into the penalty area. Mitoma works it across and it's cleared away by Dan Burn on the edge of the 6-yard area. There's good pressure, good early pressure for Brighton, attacking towards the Gallagate and to our right, which stretches right up into the shadows. They had yet another massive banner, the Tifo, before the game, which had all manner of names of Newcastle United supporters on it. And then Van Hecke just now passes the ball straight out of play for a throw into Newcastle, who have Dubravka in goal, not Pope, he's on the bench. Trippier at right back. Cher, Burn and Livramento, who is at left back in the absence of Lewis Hall, who's got a concerning injury. I must say, if you didn't hear us talk about that earlier, he's out with an ankle injury, and Lewis Hall is going to see a specialist, so that is a worry a fortnight before Wembley for Newcastle. Midfield, Tonali with Miley and Joe Linton, Guimaraes on the bench, and then Gordon and Barnes in the wide positions. And the big news for Newcastle, Alexander Isak is fit, he's on the field, and he's there up front for Newcastle. Just as important, I think, for them, almost as important, shall I say, Joe Linton also returning to the team. So 2 big injury boosts for Newcastle, but Brighton on the attack with the ball down the right-hand side with Minte, the former Newcastle United youngster who never actually played for Newcastle, and he's dispossessed by Gordon, and Newcastle have got it back. Here is Tonali just in front of his own penalty area. And the Brighton team, just one change from midweek. Hinchelwood coming in for Gomez, who's on the bench. Brighton, who've won 4 matches in a row, for Bruggen in goal, Lamptey, Van Hecke, Webster and Estupinian, then Belieber in Hinchelwood, Minte, Rutter, Mitoma and João Pedro through the middle. Paul Robinson sitting alongside, but we're watching Harvey Barnes now cutting in from the right. Barnes, who started on that flank, does well, keeps possession. Livramento's there behind him. Here is Gordon now. Gordon's ball into the area. Barnes, left side of the box, takes it to the byline. Van Hecke dives in. Barnes to the back post, headed down by Isak, blocked on the line, comes back to him, and then he stabs it up and over the top. First chance for Newcastle, not converted by Isak.
It's been an absolutely breathtaking start, John, hasn't it, by both sides. Brighton with the early pressure, pressing high, setting Newcastle back, but in an instant they changed defence into attack there. Anthony Gordon, lovely ball into the path of Harvey Barnes, who in turn lifts a lovely ball up to the far post. Isak looks like he's heading it goalwards, but it's a brilliant block by Webster right on the goal line. It's been a great lively start by both sides. Good attacking thinking there by Newcastle, and it's that man Isak at the far post who's blocked on the line by Webster.
Well, he'll have been the name, Paul, on the lips of every Newcastle United fan who was coming here today, or indeed wherever they've been watching. I think there was concern, is he going to be injured? Is he going to be injured out and miss the cup final? But he's back, he's in the team, but you'd have expected him to bury that.
Yeah, you would have done. It was a decent header for him at the far post, but I think it was really good defending by Adam Webster. Had his body in the way and ended up blocking the header. But as I say, it's been a great start, but like you say about Alexander Isak, he's got to be more than 100% fit, hasn't he? It sounds silly, but he's got to be at the absolute peak of his powers, because there's no way that Eddie Howe would risk him with that cup final. They've got West Ham next week and cup final the week after.
Absolutely, and we will be there. 5 Live will be the place to listen to that. We'll have all of the build-up and the action. It's a busy weekend, that, actually. Here is Isak, who plays it back. We should also point out the contribution of Barnes there, but Tonali is caught in possession. That is given as a free kick by Rutter, who acts as though the greatest injustice in the history of the world has just been perpetrated against him by running away, throwing his arms in the air, shaking his head. But it's a free kick to Newcastle.
Well, he wasn't going to give that, the referee, Anthony Taylor. He kept his arms by his side, and for quite a while Rutter thought he'd nicked the ball off Tonali. Watching the replay, quite legally, Tonali went to ground quite quickly. Rutter was away, and it wasn't until Anthony Taylor saw that Brighton had a 3-on-2 overload he decided to give the free kick. I think Rutter was quite right to be upset with that.
I think he just caught him with the base of his boot on the heel, and it wasn't a forceful contact either, but there was contact.
He made a lot of it.
He did, which is a very good point, Paul Robinson. Newcastle United 0, Brighton and Hove Albion 0. This is 5 Live, BBC Sounds as well. Another busy sporting afternoon. It's 1-1 in the Edinburgh derby. 12:30 kick-off there. Newcastle take the free kick. Anthony Taylor has spotted a foul on the edge of the area on Van Hecker, and he's given a free kick to Brighton.
How many times have I sat next to you, John, and said that when referees are not quite sure of a decision and they give a certain decision, a free kick or a corner, maybe swung into the box, and amazingly they see an infringement and give a free kick the other way.
Well, if anything, Van Hecker ran into Gordon. He's got the free kick. Brighton played away downfield, and it bounces through to Dubravka, who's in goal. I have to say, if you'd asked me before the team news came out, I was thinking Nick Pope would play in this one as well. But Dubravka plays. And as you said, Paul, before the match on 5 Live today, you know, it all depends, doesn't it, in terms of what Eddie Howe has told the players, which we won't know. Here's Pedro now for Brighton to the edge of the area, looks to give it back to Ruta. In comes Byrne with the challenge. Pedro goes down in the box, and he's flat on his face inside the penalty area. He's already won one penalty this week, hasn't he, in the Bournemouth match? He's not getting this one, and it's out of play on the halfway line.
That's one of those challenges where Dan Byrne just stands his ground. He comes across João Pedro, and João Pedro runs straight into him. There's a coming together, absolutely no doubt there's a coming together. João Pedro goes around the outside of Dan Byrne. He doesn't really stick his leg out. He doesn't really make a movement towards João Pedro. João Pedro throws himself into Dan Byrne. He goes to ground. I think it'd been a harsh penalty had that been given.
VAR obviously will have had a look at it, probably looking at when Byrne stepped into the challenge, but I don't think he stepped on Pedro. It was just the bodies collided, and Kieran Trippier has sat down on the far side. A relatively rare start for him this season as well. 10 starts in all competitions. Not sure what's happened there, but he's up on his feet. The captain today with Bruno Guimaraes on the bench.
He had that early foot race, didn't he, when you were doing the team news earlier on, when the game kicked off. He had a real foot race with Matoma, and he went down with no one around him, so that's quite worrying for Newcastle. Yeah,
and I think Lewis Hall's position, he's been excellent this season when I've seen him. Lewis Hall, I thought he did very well against Salah on Wednesday night. And if, as has been said by Newcastle to us, that Lewis Hall is Verbruggen is going to do well to keep this in. He can't. A back pass which had him scampering along the line. He got a leg to it, but it's out, and it's a cheap corner for Newcastle. Lewis Hall, who is going to see a specialist, which does not sound good for the young fullback.
It doesn't sound like that's a quick fix, does it? I think he's been an integral part of what they've done recently. He's been playing really, really well, and we expected him to be in the matchday squad today, didn't we? And then when he said that he's seeing a specialist, hopefully for him it's a quicker recovery than we would expect.
So Kieran Trippier will take this corner, first corner of the match, out swinger towards the penalty spot, which is headed up and away, back out towards the far side. Tonali gets his head to that. Trippier putting in the challenge over there on the far side on Estupinian. Ball is cleared away by Brighton. Up it comes to Minte. Minte now going infield into all of the black and white stripes, but he's found the pass to Ruta, and now here on the right hand side is Lamptey, and Lamptey's cross gets a Miley knee on it, which takes it out towards the Newcastle left. And then Joe Linton, last time I saw him was blonde. Now he's got his natural hair colour back. Miley, the teenager. Here's Barnes now, very much having started on the right-hand side. Barnes' cross is cleared away in the middle. Didn't beat the Webster on the edge of the 6-yard box, who was able to clear it to the right. I have to say, Paul, when I was writing it down, I did put Barnes on the left and Gordon on the right, but it's the other way around.
Yeah, he's been playing there recently, Anthony Gordon. The last 2 games that Newcastle have had at Liverpool and at home against Nottingham Forest, he's occupied this left-hand side. Anthony Gordon cutting in on his right foot, where he's had a lot of his success.
Barnes plays the ball into the area. Thought Isak was blocked on the edge of the box by Hinchelwood, but the ball just bounces through, and it's given by Anthony Taylor as a goal kick. So Newcastle United 0, Brighton 0. Paul Robinson alongside us, England World Cup goalkeeper. We're keeping tabs on Hibs against Hearts, which is 1-1 right now. There'll be a great atmosphere there as well. Brighton fans, by the way, 1,100 of them, which you would expect more for a cup tie. But I think a 1:45 kick-off time on a Sunday afternoon has not done Brighton supporters any favours. And I hear that the rail ticket prices were astronomical for them. So I think you can probably appreciate and understand why it is that it's not more, as Mitoma has the ball through the middle. So well done to everyone who has made it from Brighton, as Ruta plays it into the box and it's cleared away by Newcastle out of play for a throw near the halfway line.
And also the lack of trains north of York this weekend, I think it's been a problem, as well as it being a Sunday night trying to get home. But yeah, it's a very, very good turnout, as you say, from those Brighton and Hove Albion fans, sat up high, very high away to our left-hand side.
Yes, as I was driving up the A1 today, I saw bus replacement coming the other way, and I thought, I'm pleased I'm not on that. As Van Hecke...
Is your driver having the day off today, John, was it?
I think you might be mistaking me with Mark Chapman.
Oh, OK.
Ball's out of play for a throw on the halfway line. Livramento takes the throw back towards the edge of the box. Unfair that, when he's not here to defend himself, but never mind. Dubravka passes the ball out to Cher, and then Miley gets it back on the halfway line. Great to see him back, Miley, after worrying injuries for him. It's never good when a young player has a string of injuries in the way that he has, but he's come back and he's looking good. Here's Gordon now to Livramento, then back to Gordon, but Livramento had strayed offside, and it's a free kick to Brighton, and it remains 0-0. So we haven't seen these, because Livramento has played so much on the right. We've not really seen the Livramento-Gordon.
I was just going to say that combination on the left-hand side here for Newcastle, almost right in front of us. We're about 10-15 rows back, just behind the dugouts, very close to this left-hand side that Newcastle are playing right to left at the moment. Livramento left back, Joe Linton in front of him, and then Anthony Gordon in front of him. So the relationship between the two, it's been good thus far, but it's one to watch during the game.
Well, might be watching it for England as well next month. Thomas Tuchel names his first squad a week on Friday, as Brighton play the ball forward and Dubravka comes and gathers it on the edge of the box. Always used to be a Thursday under Sir Gareth, but Thomas Tuchel, it's a Friday, which has rather altered our plans.
Well, he's been doing the rounds, hasn't he? He's been getting to a lot of games.
He certainly has.
I reckon he's got a driver. He could be here today. he gets to a lot of games, but
I think we can take that as read.
With Livramento and Anthony Gordon, there's two players there, especially Anthony Gordon, the form that he's been this season. I think he's becoming an integral part of everything that Eddie Howe does. You look at what he's had, 35 appearances, 9 goals, 6 assists, and there's still a long way to go.
Yep. So 0-0 it is, and Manchester United Fulham to come. Make sure you're in front of your television for that one on BBC One a little later on. Here's Tonali, right-footed ball, so high, it's over the top of Gordon, and it straight out of play for a throw-in to Brighton, 10 yards inside their own half. And Lamptey is going to take this throw. Just down in front of us, Fabian Hürzeler is there, his first experience of the FA Cup this season. They've come through against Norwich of the Championship, had a good win there, and then knocked out Chelsea, of course, one of the many big names to fall in the FA Cup this season, with the 2-1 win at the Community Stadium. Fabian Hürzeler, who turned 32 this week. He's getting old now. He's got his black gloves on. I'm not sure they're necessary today on Tyneside. Beautiful day. I've already risked it by saying it's like early spring, but it is, even though it has just clouded over, but there are patches of blue sky up there. And here's the blonde-haired Van Hecke playing it to Mitoma, then Hinchelwood gets a touch. Jack Hinchelwood, the 19-year-old, he's the teenager in the Brighton midfield, and also very highly thought of. Livramento does well, comes out with the ball against Minte, takes it to the halfway line, but excellent work from Minte, who chases him and gets the ball back from Livramento. And now here is Mitoma, who just knocks it back into the centre circle. Yes, Minte never got the opportunity to play for Newcastle United here at St James's Park, and he was very highly thought of, and I know that when they signed him from Denmark. He went off on loan to Feyenoord and actually won the Dutch Cup, the Royal Dutch Cup, with Arne Slot last season with Feyenoord, and also got sent off in the final. Here is Ruta playing the ball through into the penalty area, but under pressure, and that just after he overhit it, Dubravka allows it to bounce through and behind for a goal kick.
You can see why Eddie Howe was quite frustrated at losing Minte. A quality player like that, you can see his defensive responsibilities, what he's not afraid of as well. He tracks back, he helps Lamptey, works extremely hard, and when Brighton are in full flow, they're a really good sight to watch. Minter, Ruta, Mitoma, João Pedro. The understanding between the four front players and the movement from back to front are very, very sharp.
Newcastle playing it out from the back. That's given away by Joe Linton. Mitoma in the box. Newcastle quickly get in. It comes back for the shot from the edge of the penalty area from Baliba, but that was blocked. And Newcastle clear it forward to Gordon, and he controls it instantly, and he's up against Lamptey, and he beats him on the inside, and he gives it to Isak. Isak goes for goal, but straight really for Bruggen, who's able to drop down forward into his left and gather the bouncing ball up into his pink shirt.
Well, that was defence turned into attack very quickly from Newcastle. Ball out to Anthony Gordon on this left-hand side. He runs at the full-back Lamptey, and he gets to an area where he can't touch him. Plays a really nice ball into the path of Alexander Isak. You can see he's a striker that's full of confidence. 25 yards from goal, his first thought, side of the foot, hit one of them wobbly ones towards the goal. This time it was too close to Verbruggen, but it's a strike on target.
So it remains 0-0. Isak now 2 efforts on goal, probably 3 actually, because the first one was a double chance, wasn't it, that he had, as Cher steps forward, wins the ball back, but then misplaces his pass forward. He's looking for the run. There we saw Isak. You know, that's classic Isak there, isn't it? 1 minute in the centre forward position on the edge of the penalty area, then that sudden Newcastle attack. He's over there on the right wing. That's what makes him a little bit different, isn't it?
His quality, isn't it? He really has shown his qualities this season, and Eddie Howe has spoken highly of him, and he said, look, when you listen to one of Eddie Howe's press conferences, he said if he's fit, he plays, and he's been good to his word today. He's that important to this Newcastle side.
So from Tyneside to Edinburgh, what's the latest with you, Kenny Crawford?
The latest is it's still Hibs 1, Hearts 1 after 70 minutes here, John. A couple of half chances for the home side since half time. Chris Cadden and Martin Boyle testing Craig Gordon, and they've just brought on Hibs a former Newcastle striker, funnily enough, 35-year-old Dwight Gale, who scored the winner for Hibs against Hearts in December at Tynecastle. Could he have a telling touch today? Hibs 1, Hearts 1.
Still going after all these years. Here's Lamptey on the right-hand side for Brighton, but Newcastle win possession back. It's played back by Livramento to Dubravka, who's under pressure from Pedro, so just had to knock it out of play quickly for a throw to Brighton down the right-hand side. They'll have had a great rendition, I'm sure. We talk about local hero here. They'll have had a great rendition, I'm sure, of Sunshine on Leith at Easter Road today. I couldn't believe my ears recently. I don't know, as Van Hecke plays the ball over the top, but Livramento clears it away, comes back to Livramento, who rather slices it across the edge of his own box. Barnes is able to head it away, but that's back to Webster, and Brighton have got possession inside the Newcastle half and go back to Van Hecke on the halfway line. Here's Webster again, the Brighton and Hove Albion captain, with his left wrist and hand quite heavily strapped. This attack comes to nothing, and Estupiñán will have to go back all the way into his own half. Couldn't believe it when I don't know whether you heard Coldplay's Piano Room session on Radio 2 recently, in which they claimed that they had never heard Sunshine on Leith before, and so they did a cover version of it. I was thinking, where on earth have you been that you have not heard that?
Busy
as
making
musicians?
their own music, busy making their own
Well, they must be. that actually is.
They've got quite a big tour coming up, really, haven't they?
They are. Very good summarising there, Paul Robinson, extending your expertise. It's Lamptey. Lamptey is winning a free kick because the ball bounced up against Joe Linton's hand.
They do look good, Brighton, on the turnover of possession. And Newcastle haven't really got a foothold in this game as yet. But Brighton, when they do get possession, the first thought is always forward, and that's what we spoke about this side. Very direct and high tempo and high press, not afraid to play the longer passes.
Long pass is played, and it's headed down by Byrne, and then there's a flick to Mitoma, and now here's Pedro, right side of the box against Byrne, beats him, then lays it back to the edge of the box. Hinchelwood with the shot. That also is blocked by Miley, and then Brighton couldn't take advantage with Baliba, and then Gordon is fouled by Lamptey, and it's a free kick to Newcastle, and they'll take that. Newcastle, they were a little stretched there, and Eddie Howe just down here. Jason Tindall has joined him. The two of them, as you suggested, Paul, probably just a little concerned here, as Barnes right over there on the right wing now begins to drift in field. He's got Trippier with him and Miley as well, and then Tonali strokes a pass to Trippier, whose cross is over Gordon and is chested down at the back post by Minte, and then cleared away to the halfway line. And back to Easter Road and Kenny Crawford.
where there's definitely sunshine on Leith now, John, because Hibs have taken a 2-1 lead, the most sumptuous of strikes by Jack Iredale, former Carlisle United, former Bolton Wanderers, former Cambridge United. The ball dropped to him just on the left hand corner of the box. He took it on the half volley right into the far top right hand corner. Hibs 2, Hearts 1.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Newcastle, Brighton 0-0 as Joe Linton, who's missed the last 5 matches with a knee injury, finds Livramento, and now Gordon to Isak, lays it back to Joe Linton, back into the penalty area, cleared by Van Hecke. Joe Linton again, then Livramento, he might have been caught there. Gordon turns and shoots, and it goes wide, and he's given the penalty. Anthony Taylor's given the penalty for that challenge on Livramento. And Minte goes to the referee and says, how can you have given that? And he pulls the shirt up over his head. It was late, and referee Taylor just took a moment, blew his whistle and pointed to the spot.
He didn't need to make that challenge, didn't Minter. Livramento's got himself into the box. He's already played the pass with the outside of his boot to Anthony Gordon. He's played a short 5-yard pass. Minter's late, he comes crashing into the back of Livramento. The contact is minimal, but there's contact there. There's no need for Minter to make that challenge. He's in acres of space, Livramento, and he's already passed the ball to Anthony Gordon. The ball's gone when the challenge is made. The ball's left Livramento's foot. The challenge comes in, Livramento goes over. Referee, to be fair to him, in a good position, right on the spot, gives the penalty kick. It's not going to be overturned.
No, they'll be looking at it, but Newcastle are ready to take this. Anthony Gordon took the ball initially and protected the penalty spot. He has scored a penalty in the FA Cup, Anthony Gordon, in the absence of Alexander Isak. But with Isak back in the game, there's only one man to take this. Newcastle United's number 14, 21 goals this season. He's standing feet wide apart, hands on his hips. I must say, he looks quite imposing, and he comes up to take the penalty, and he takes it brilliantly, high into the roof of the net, top left corner. There's nothing Verbruggen could have done about that penalty, and Newcastle lead in the cup tie by 1-0 against Brighton.
What a penalty, what an incredible penalty. I mean, any penalty that goes in and hits the back of the net is a good penalty. That is exceptional. He stepped up with so much confidence, whipped, closed his foot into the goalkeeper's top right-hand corner. It's flying away from Verbruggen at some speed. It's pulled out the top corner of the net, right at the very pinpoint where the net's pulled out. He's hit it with pace, power, direction. Incredible penalty.
As listeners join us on the BBC World Service here at St James's Park, a spring like St James's Park, and the Newcastle United fans have got a spring in their step after that. It was a softish penalty, really, the conceding of it, Minte's challenge on Tino Livramento, but there was nothing soft about the taking of it.
No, very confident. We spoke so long about Alexander Isak. There was never any doubt the way he was going to take that penalty. Uphill at St James's Park, away to our left. Verbruggen stood, waited, guessed the right way, and he's absolutely smashed that with such precision. But it's interesting to watch Minter, who gave the penalty away, had to be consoled by some of the Brighton players after the kick was taken. And you see his body language now, shoulders are down. That's dented his confidence, Minter. Yeah, coming back here, a big day for him to come back here when he didn't get his opportunity, as we've already mentioned. Then to concede a penalty like that, he was distraught, as I say, he pulled his shirt up over his face. Here he is now, trying to make amends. Yankuba Minte, the Gambian international, plays the ball into the box, but it bounces away from him as the challenge came in from Livramento, and Dubravka was able to pick up, and then he overarms it out. Newcastle 1-0 up here. Here is the goal scorer, Alexander Isak, 22 now for the season, bringing the ball in from the right, couldn't find the pass through to Barnes, the onrushing Barnes, and that was intercepted by Estupiñán, and Brighton will bring it away. I know it's easy to say now in hindsight, but I've never been so confident that somebody would score a penalty. He just didn't look like he was going to miss it, did he, Alexander Isak? He's a changed man this season. And yes, he did score his 25 goals last season, which was his personal best. But everything about him, in terms of the way that he carries himself now, he just looks a different level with his confidence, his body language. And standing there, as you say, Paul, for Verbruggen, as Brighton come forward in the cross from the left-hand side from Pedro,
bounces off the defender, Newcastle defender, and behind for a Brighton corner. I mean, when he was standing there, it was almost Cristiano Ronaldo-like, the pose that he struck.
You knew where it was going. You could have put 3 goalkeepers in there and you'd still have fancied the chances of scoring. It was so high, it was such pace into the roof of the net. Confident though, as you say, but you put him in the conversation with Erling Haaland. He's a very different player to Erling Haaland. Figures are almost getting similar this season, but actually the way he runs the channels and the way that he plays his game, he's a very different striker to watch.
Corner then for Brighton, to the near post. Attempted flick on by Pedro. Defenders were in there as well. Webster jumps for it. Byrne gets there first. Pedro plays it back across and it's caught by Dubravka, stretching high. And it is Newcastle United 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 0, with 25 minutes on the clock here. And the message, I'm sure, from Eddie Howe will have been, you know, I don't care that the cup final is a fortnight away, the Carabao Cup final. He'll have been concerned. It's only human, it's only natural for that to be the case, that his Newcastle team were not going to have the eye completely on the ball today, as it were, as Isak is caught in an offside position. And they'll be tested here, this Brighton team, but they've got their noses in front.
Well, we wondered what to expect before the game, didn't we, the team selection, but actually the need and desperation and want for a trophy in these parts. I mean, they're still only competing on three fronts. You know, they've got the EFL Cup final coming up after West Ham next week, and they want to stay in this competition. And you look at the way that this competition's panning out, you look at the teams that are actually out of this competition, the teams that went through yesterday, there's a real chance that we might have a cup final that we certainly wasn't expecting this year.
Yeah, right now in the quarter-final draw later, we have for sure Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Manchester City and Preston, who are the only championship sides still left in the FA Cup this season. But there is an opportunity there for someone, either Manchester United or Fulham. Nottingham Forest Ipswich tomorrow night, you'll hear that on 5 Live. On the Monday evening, Conor McNamara and Clinton Morrison will be there. But Newcastle here are in front with that Isak goal from the penalty spot, and a brilliant turn from him in the centre circle, brilliant play. And then Joe Linton works it here to Gordon. Gordon has got Livramento tearing down the left, but Gordon actually brings it infield and shoots right-footed, but Verbruggen is able to go down to his left and catch the ball quite straightforwardly.
They're a pleasure to watch, Newcastle, when they're in a full flow like that. Lovely touch again by Alexander Isak in the middle of midfield into Joe Linton. First time ball out to Anthony Gordon, who again runs at his defender and tries to create.
A string of 2 o'clock kickoffs in the WSL. We're going to go to Tottenham, Manchester City. Emily Herbert.
Yeah, Tottenham 0, Manchester City 1, and it's against the run of play. It's come from nothing. A lovely cross into the box from the left, and Miedemar leaps the highest into the box to head it in. Too easy. Tottenham 0, Manchester City 1.
Also an early goal for Liverpool. It's Crystal Palace 0, Liverpool 1. And last we heard, Manchester United were 2-0 up on Leicester in the 12:30 kickoff. Were we going to visit there again? I know Nathan Alban is sitting waiting. We will do in due course. Newcastle with Joe Linton, who goes down, doesn't win the free kick, and he's not happy with Anthony Taylor. Joe Linton gets to his feet and shakes his fists in the air. The ball's back with Van Hecker on the halfway line, the Dutch international, relatively new Dutch international. Picks out a pass to Mitoma centrally. Mitoma's little angle ball through. Pedro in on the challenge, bounces off Trippier, and now Dan Burn in a little bit of trouble there, but is able to wriggle and work the ball away back to the left-hand side. Hinchelwood, deep cross across the penalty area. Livramento for Newcastle got his head to it, but Brighton back in possession. But Gordon, if Lamptey's not careful, Gordon is away from him and was tackled over, fouled, brought down. He was too casual there, Lamptey, and Gordon had too much for him, got the ball away, and as he went down with flailing legs, brought down Gordon. Yellow card, Lamptey.
Yeah, Anthony Gordon knows that he's got the beating of Lamptey, but with pace. So as the ball's coming now, he just nudges the ball round Lamptey, gets the other side out, muscles him, and there's nothing Lamptey can do other than bring him down right in front of the dugouts, down beneath us.
So a free kick to Newcastle. It's the Newcastle voices that you can hear. Noise coming out of the Gallagate end. I can just see them clapping their hands, getting another song going in there. They'll so many of them will be going. It's something like 35,000, I think, that they're taking to Wembley in a fortnight's time. That should be quite an occasion. as Newcastle attempt to win a top level, a major trophy for the first time since 1969, the old Intercities Fairs Cup. Here's Trippier, receives this free kick from Dubravka and then flights the ball to the edge of the area. It's headed away for Brighton to Isak. Isak trying to work his way around Ruta. Thought he might have fouled him there. Anthony Taylor didn't think so, but in actual fact, in the end, Webster is able to pass the ball away over there to the left-hand side. And Brighton come back towards the edge of their own box. Hinchell would. And then does well Pedro on the left-hand side. Also a really mobile centre-forward, Pedro, with the 7 goals that he scored this season. Brighton now with it on the right, Minte, back to Lamptey. Lamptey's ball across to the edge of the 6-yard box, and the returning Tonali just side-foots it behind for another Brighton corner, Paul.
Yeah, good interchange on this right-hand side. Minter and Lamptey occupying the final third of Newcastle this time instead of the defending duties that they've had to concentrate on. Gets the ball around the outside. Lamptey puts it across the front. Tonali, really good defensive run across that near post. Concedes a corner.
We are going to go back to the Manchester United WSL game in a moment, but we'll see this Brighton corner first, which is going to be swung in left-footed. Anthony Taylor's just blown his whistle because I think Van Hecker and Joe Linton are having a little bit of a pushing match at the back post. He speaks to them both, and then of course they continue to push each other in the chest. Here comes the corner to the back post, which is headed up on a stretch by Webster, but couldn't keep it down, and it loops over the top into the first 2 or 3 rows of the Gallowgate end. And the score is, with half an hour played, over half an hour, Newcastle United 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 0 in this FA Cup 5th round tie. So to the WSL and Manchester United Leicester. Nathan Albon.
Manchester United still lead Leicester by 2-0, but Leicester have grown into it second half. Yuka Mamiki and Nelly Lass both with shots saved. 3 minutes to go. Manchester United 2, Leicester 0.
Here's Harvey Barnes, gets the ball down for Newcastle, 30 yards out, slips it to Isak, shoots, he scores, but the offside flag is up. A rasping right foot shot flew past Verbruggen, who must be very relieved. I have to say, I was expecting him to save that, but it ended up in the back of the net. But the offside flag went up on the far side from Adam Nunn, and we wait now for the semi-automated offside system to show us that Isak was indeed in an offside position.
I think this one will be slightly quicker than the check that we had at Bournemouth yesterday. Alexander Isak, he'll look for all the world that he'd kept his run. He looked like he'd held his run, but on the replay he hadn't. Just half a body offside. Slipped through to him one-on-one on the angle with Verbruggen. And as you said, John, we just waited for Verbruggen to make the save. Kind of hit Isak's outside of his right boot as he struck it. Went in at the near post, and thankfully for Brighton and their goalkeeper, it was ruled out for offside.
So it remains Newcastle 1, Brighton 0. Yes, when I got back in last night, as decision goes against Newcastle and Isak on the far side. Can't do that at St James's Park, Anthony Taylor. Should know that against the sainted Isak. It's ball was out of play, and it's a throw-in to Brighton. Take it back into their own half. Yes, I got back in last night, put the radio on, and I thought, why is Bournemouth Wolves? I was listening to Ali, Bruce Ball and Rob Green. Why is it still going on? And then later heard about the 8-minute decision on the semi-automated system. Here's Pedro to Matoma.
It's going to speed things up, that system.
Well, they did say on Friday, be aware that if bodies are in the way, that will cause problems. And sure enough, caused problems it did.
Of course, because there's no footballers on a football pitch, is there?
Yeah.
It was a long one, wasn't it?
Yeah. And for those who don't know, it is a different system to the system that UEFA and FIFA use. Different semi-automated offside system. Here is Pedro, now Mitoma, that is behind Minte, but Ruta was there. Brighton coming forward in numbers here. And Lamptey, left-footed ball into the box, but Dubravka comes, big stretch, catches the ball, and then overarms it out to Isak, and Webster coming in, caught him. Isak, lovely touch, played it round him. Yeah, right decision there, yellow card. Even though it was 10 yards inside the Newcastle half, Webster says, come on. He's saying that's my first foul like that, but I think that's the right decision.
It was. Alexander Isak was away. And like you said earlier, John, about Isak, about him being a different type of striker and the way that he's playing, that's something that Newcastle use as a weapon going forward. It was a really good catch from the cross from Dubravka, and immediately Isak's occupying the centre circle. You can see him, he pulls away to the left-hand side in his own half, 15-20 yards deep of the halfway line in his own half. Dubravka bowls it out to Isak, and he looks for that little flick round the corner of Webster, and he gets it, and Webster just catches him. Granted, it's deep in Newcastle's half, but it's something that Newcastle use on the counter-attack. Isak's pace.
5 Live in the World Service from the BBC. Free kick to Newcastle, long one to the edge of the box. That's headed down and away by Webster. Comes back for Newcastle. Barnes gets underneath that cross to the left-hand side, which is intercepted by Minte. And Minte is away from Joe Linton, and then Gordon slides in. Gordon slides in and catches, or was it Joe Linton who caught Minte initially? And then Gordon slid in as well, and that's a yellow card for Joe Linton, who laughs ironically and shakes his head and claps his hands.
I think he tried to take Minter out in quite a cynical way. Joe Linton, Anthony Gordon actually got the ball, but Joe Linton, Minter was away from him. Joe Linton right in front of the dugout, almost tried to push Minter into the dugout. It was quite a cynical challenge. He got away from it, but the referee still went back and penalised him. Sorry, John.
Yep. 10 minutes to go to half-time. Newcastle 1, Brighton 0. Newcastle leading through Alexander Isak's 22nd goal of the season, the third from the penalty spot of those goals that he scored this campaign. But I think if there are any Newcastle fans listening, if you're on the World Service and are wondering about the state of Isak's fitness, he looked a little rusty with the first chance that he has, but since then he looks as fit as can be. As Pedro swings in a ball from the left-hand side, but Dubravka comes confidently and catches that. He's from a goalkeeper's point of view, Dubravka has looked very confident in these early exchanges as Livramento carries the ball over the halfway line and concedes a throw-in to Brighton, and they take that back into the edge of their own central defence. Back to Easter Road, Kenny Crawford.
91 minutes gone, John. Hibs 2, Hearts 1. We've got 4 more minutes of added time to play. At the moment, Jack Iredale's wonderful strike from the edge of the box into the far right corner is proving to be the match runner. Here comes Dwight Gale. He's lobbing over, but it's offside. This flags up. We thought we were going to get a former Newcastle player scoring there, but it's offside. So yes, with a few minutes to go, Hibs are looking to get their second derby win in a row. They won in December against Hearts. Can they win again? I'll keep you posted if there's any changes. Hibs 2, Hearts 1.
Thank you, Kenny. We'll be back with you before too long then. It is all over in the 12:30 kick-off in the WSL with Nathan Albion.
And it's finished Manchester United 2, Leicester 0, home side without top scorer Elizabeth Turlin, but no problem in front of goal. Melvin Mallard rounding the goalkeeper and Leo Galton also finding the net. Full-time Man United 2, Leicester 0.
We'll have commentary on the Arsenal-West Ham WSL match, which is a 5:30 kick-off. That'll be on Sports Extra later. And Newcastle 1-0 up. Just the skies darkening over St James's Park. Some grey clouds have rolled in. A couple of seagulls up there. 11 seagulls down on the pitch as Brighton go back to Webster in the centre circle. Webster carries the ball forward and gives it to Estupinian in the bright green boots, who gives it away to Newcastle. That was careless by Estupinian. Joe Linton quickly here to Gordon on the left-hand side. Gordon, blonde hair ruffled by the wind, square to Miley. Covering challenge comes in from Mitoma to win the ball back for Brighton on the edge of their own box.
They had an overlap on the right-hand side there, Newcastle as well, with Harvey Barnes. Gordon this time chose to cut inside, played a decent ball into the midfield, into Miley, who in turn looked for Harvey Barnes, couldn't quite find him. Pass wasn't good enough.
1-0 Newcastle. Half-time 6 minutes away. Newcastle United attempting to reach the FA Cup quarter-finals for a second consecutive season, and they've not done that for nearly 2 decades. Reached the quarter-finals of the FA Cup 2 seasons in a row. That was back in the days of when Graham Souness and then Glenn Roeder were the Newcastle United managers. Brighton with Webster. Webster slips a little ball infield to Baliba, who has a look over his shoulder. The Cameroon international, he's impressed this season. Well, so many Brighton players have impressed, but Van Hecker doesn't impress with that. And he didn't impress Mitoma either, who looked hopping mad on the far side, that his pass was way over his head and out for a throw into Newcastle.
I think he feels that he's not getting enough service on that left-hand side. Matoma, he had that early run at Kieran Trippier. We saw Trippier pull up, whether he was slightly injured or not after that. But Matoma feels that he's got the beating of Trippier down that left-hand side, but has actually been starved of possession. Most of the good things that Brighton have done have been down this right-hand side with Lamptey and Minter.
Yep. Matoma, 3 goals in his last 4 appearances, including in that win against Chelsea in the previous round. Newcastle United on the back foot here, stretch from Cher, hooks it away. Matoma, then Trippier was quickly onto him. He made contact with him, but got the ball as well. Out of play, Brighton go back to the centre circle and then back further into their own half. It is work for Matoma, but Matoma on the stretch gives it away. Miley, nice and economical from Miley to Joe Linton. Joe Linton rolls it into the path of Gordon. Livramento on his run into the box, but that's a good challenge this time from Minte, who, remember, conceded the penalty against Livramento. This has given us a goal kick, which has caused some fury amongst those in black and white shirts and scarves in the stands. Referee Taylor was in a good position though, and has decided that tackle took it back onto Livramento and behind for a goal kick.
Minter this time gets back in and he gets goal side. That's the big difference between this challenge and the challenge that gave away the penalty. He was goal side of Livramento this time, which gave him the opportunity to make the challenge and kick it against Livramento for the goal kick.
5 Live on the World Service from the BBC, and all live BBC Radio is available to listen to via BBC Sounds, of course, if you're on the move via your device. Here's Hinchelwood, and then Belieber receives it and plays it out to the right, but Trippier was quickly in there as well, and then makes sure he wins the free kick against Estupiñán. Clever play from the experienced 34-year-old former England defender. Free kick to Newcastle, and back to Hibs. Hearts. Hibs have won it. Kenny Crawford.
Full time, Hibernian 2, Heart of Midlothian 1. Jack Iredale started this match without a goal to his name as a Hibs player. He finishes it having scored a wonderful winner in an Edinburgh derby. Martin Boyle curled in to put Hibs in front on 6 minutes. George Grant equalised soon after with a brilliant strike, but on 74 minutes Australian left back Iredale half volleyed from distance to send Easter Road wild. Hibs go third, 2 clear of Aberdeen, who play Dundee United shortly. Hearts stay 7th. Hibs 2, Hearts 1.
Yes, that's a 3 o'clock kick-off in faraway Aberdeen. Even here on Tyneside, Aberdeen is far away, so we'll have news of that later. 3 o'clock kick-off. Newcastle 1, Brighton 0, and Brighton 1-0 down since the 23rd minute when Alexander Isak struck that almost unstoppable penalty with his right foot. But Ruta now, his ball to the edge of the area. Cher's able to block that, and Newcastle come forward again. Joe Linton lifts a pass forward and diagonally, but Isak can't reach that, and it bounces out of play for a throw into Brighton halfway inside their own half. There will be a 6:06 later, by the way, an earlier start to 6:06 than usual, but first time you've had a chance to speak to both Robbie and Chris Sutton, Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. They'll be taking your calls later. It's going to get underway about 5 o'clock, so it'll feature updates on Manchester United Fulham, which you can watch on BBC One. And remember, all of the FA Cup clips are on the BBC Sport website. As Pedro, lovely ball through, Minter with a chance, and he's forced his shot past Dubravka and in. Trippier in with a challenge, but past him. Little deflection, took it past the goalkeeper, and there's the story. Minte, the former Newcastle youngster who conceded the penalty at one end, was distraught, now scores at the other end to make it Newcastle 1, Brighton 1.
Well, we said that anything that Brighton were doing well, it was coming down this right-hand side, and it was Lamptey and Minter again this time. Ball breaks through to Minter and he gets through one-on-one. He gets in behind the Newcastle back four. He's still got a lot to do. He's on the angle. Dubravka comes out to narrow the angle. You can see Minter wants to get it on his left foot. He opens his body up to play it across Dubravka. As he goes to play it across Dubravka, Kieran Trippier comes sliding across him and he diverts it into the near post. The shot was on target, but Kieran Trippier diverts it past his own goalkeeper into the near post to get Brighton back into this game.
Yankuba Minte, the 20-year-old who never got to play for the Newcastle first team, went off on loan to Feyenoord, was sold to Brighton last summer, and then they had to sell him because of the financial situation. £30 million he was bought for, and he's the central figure of the first half now.
The danger's always been this right-hand side for Brighton. Mitoma's not got the possession that he wanted on the left-hand side. Minto, we said before he'd give away the penalty, he was the player that looked the most dangerous. Giving away that penalty, his confidence dropped, his body language changed, but as the game's gone on, he's grown back into the game. Really good interchange, put him through one-on-one, and his body language has certainly changed now. Shoulders are up, chest out.
As Tonali very nearly gives it away, but Shearer's able to arrive and play it away downfield. So that is 6 goals now this season. That's not a bad return, is it, for the 20-year-old, the Gambian international? 2 minutes of added time, as you will have heard, and that for Yankuba Minte was his first goal in this great old competition, the FA Cup. So he's got that on his CV now, and I'm just watching him down there, number 17 on his back. He's now feeling much better about things than he was. Brighton have got a throw in, and Anthony Taylor is saying, come on, let's get this throw in taken. And it's taken by Lamptey. I'm not sure it actually came back into play.
Never came in.
So Anthony Taylor says you need to take that again. Do you think that might have been accidentally on purpose?
Possibly, yeah. There's the Newcastle fans down in the corner just reminding him he's not getting the most welcome of receptions down there, is he, after that act?
He's not, as the throw-in is taken. Must ask you about the IFAB change, by the way, to the regulations, Paul, that was announced yesterday. That's not a good challenge by Baliba on Joe Linton, just down in front of us here. 2 legs, that sort of scissor movement. Yellow card comes out for Baliba.
Well, Joe Linton's helped him out, really helped him out there. That was a really poor looking challenge. At first watch, it was right underneath as Joe Linton, Baliba comes in 2 feet, wraps him round Joe Linton in that scissor motion, like you said. Joe Linton, to his credit, he immediately gets up and he shakes Baliba's hand. That was an orange. I think that was an orange card.
VAR?
So they'll have a look at it, but I think the decision on the field will stay. Didn't look pretty.
No, I think free kick is taken towards the edge of the penalty area, but Brighton have worked it away and cleared it away downfield. I think that is one where Anthony Taylor will probably say, I've had a good view of that, and probably saying, like you, Paul, I've decided that's going to be a yellow, not a red. As Van Hecker is then fouled on the edge of the area by the jumping Isak. Free kick to Brighton. We've already had 2 minutes of added time at the end of this first half, but before we get the half-time whistle, back to Tottenham, Manchester City in the WSL. Emily Herbert.
Yeah, and there is the equaliser for Tottenham. Spurs 1, City 1, and it's a lovely goal from Bethany England. New signing Olivia Holt does all the work, a clip to England in the box, and she loops it over the keeper. It's Tottenham 1, Manchester City 1.
Yes, I suspect Anthony Taylor here as he blows the whistle for half-time. There we are, 1-1 after the late equaliser for Minte. 1-1 at half-time in this cup tie. I suspect Anthony Taylor will have, over the microphones, said to the video assistant referee James Bell that he feels as though he got a clear view on that and would be sticking with his decision.
You could see by Anthony Taylor's body language, he kind of booked him, Baleba, and then he put his head on the side as to say that's a lucky one, because at first viewing it didn't look pretty. We may watch it again on the replay and it might not be as bad, but it was the scissor movement, the scissor motion, maybe didn't make as much contact as we thought.
And overall 1-1.
Been a good game. It has been a good game. I think Brighton on the counter-attack with the pace that they've got, the front four, Minter, Rutter, Matoma. João Pedro's been very, very quiet, in all honesty, but Newcastle have always carried that threat, and in somebody like Alexander Isak, they've got the pace wherever the ball is on the pitch, turnover possession, he can hurt them in behind, and they'll look for that ball in behind. He really has looked sharp to Isak once again.
A little insight into the life of a top-class referee, as Anthony Taylor, just because he was very close to us here, walking off the field underneath the roof of the C3 dugout, and a Newcastle fan has come out of the stands and put himself right at the top there and was pointing at him, shouting angrily at him for not sending off Baliba for that challenge. That's an insight into how strong you have to be as a referee to ignore that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the most difficult position on the pitch, without a shadow of a doubt. The referee.
People talk about abuse. That's.
Yeah, and where we are, what are we, 10, 15 rows back, and the fan came from a good long way away just to express his dissatisfaction with his performance, shall we say?
But no, in going about your job, no one would want that, would they? But that's a fact. That's what happens. Anyway, there we are. Half time here at St James's. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1.
As far as the challenge goes, Paul, I think orange is about right, isn't it? I mean, it could easily have been a red card.
Yeah, it's right in the middle, isn't it? I think, we've not seen that many replays of it. I suspect you've seen more than we have, but it just didn't look pretty. It's one of those challenges, like as you say, where he comes in from either side, scissor motion, ends up on his backside, but it's just the amount of contact. I wouldn't have been surprised if initially on first glance he'd have sent him off.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the penalty in that it's a completely needless foul, a different type of needless foul.
Yeah, it's nowhere near anything. I mean, it's right in front of us here in the dugout, 2 or 3 yards either side of the halfway line. Joe Linton was going nowhere apart from recycling the ball and keeping possession. It was a challenge that wasn't needed.
Isak's fun, isn't he? I mean, the way that he hits the ball, it was true of the penalty and it was true of the goal that was ruled out for offside. He's got the ability to whip it with so much speed. It's past Verbruggen before he moves. Steve is sharp. He really is sharp. Seeing him now in the flesh after his little injury or left out against Liverpool, there's no worries about his form or fitness. And like I said, when he stood over that penalty, it's a good job the net was there, because that ball would still be flying now. He really did hit it, but he hits it with the instep in a similar way. The player that I used to play with, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, a lot years ago. Yeah. That side foot strike, and he can get the dip and curve and the pace and power. Like the goal that he had ruled out, he smashed it past Verbruggen at the near post, and the goalkeeper shouldn't get beat. But when you see the way that he's hit it, the ball's moved all over the place, and he's hit it with such power. Also, the stance. I'm just watching the replay now of him taking the penalty. Just standing there, making his frame as big as he can, with his hands on his hips. It's very, very similar. And like you say, it's the way they strike the ball, and Hasselbank was the same. And I know the sort of cliche phrase is no backlift, but it's no anything, is it? It's from 0 to 100 in terms of the speed of the ball.
Unlike what John said in commentary, the same way that Cristiano Ronaldo stands over a penalty, that
very
type,
similar, yeah.
But it's and you relate that to confidence as well. We know that Ronaldo is a confident footballer, and the way that he plays, he thinks every time he steps up he's going to score a penalty. And Alexander Isak looked exactly like that. He's just a player that's full of confidence, and he's a joy to watch actually at the moment.
This is set up really nicely, John Murray.
Yes, it is, and that's just put Newcastle on the back foot. I think there was an expectation that they were going to go in with a lead at half-time, and it's not the case. So the same questions apply as they did at the start of the match about needing to do the job here and make sure all senses are very much focused on today and not in a fortnight's time at Wembley.
Yeah, good cup tie. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Second half commentary to come with John Murray and Paul Robinson, who's on the front foot in the Champions Trophy cricket. Henry Moran is watching.
Intriguing game this. New Zealand 87 for 2 in the 24th over. They need a further 163 runs to beat an India side and guarantee qualification top of their group. Both of these sides already through to the semi-finals. The winner will play against Australia, the loser against South Africa. So 2 very tough matches regardless of which way it goes, but this is an interesting contest with New Zealand needing to go at over a run of ball and India's spinners causing them problems. Kane Williamson alongside Daryl Mitchell in the middle, and New Zealand 87 for 2 need 163.
Live commentary on 5 Sports Extra. Finished in the Edinburgh Derby, Hibs 2, Hearts 1 in the Women's Super League. It finished Manchester United 2, Leicester 0. Live scores: Aston Villa 0, Everton 1, Tottenham 1, Manchester City 1, and Crystal Palace 0, Liverpool 1 in a game which is the first match in charge both for new Palace manager Leif Smerud, their bottom of the league, and Amber Whiteley, who is the interim manager after Matt Beard was sacked, although she said to the BBC in the last couple of days she does want the job. Well, that's not a bad start. Right, much more football to come and rugby league reaction as well after the news on 5 Live with John Barnes.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Sir Keir Starmer is welcoming leaders to a summit in London on how to end the conflict in Ukraine. 17 European politicians and the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau are arriving at Lancaster House. It follows President Zelensky and US President Trump's fiery exchange at the White House on Friday, which has cast doubt on future American support for Kyiv. And diplomatic correspondent James Landale says France and the UK are trying to take the lead on peace talks by coming up with their own proposal.
We don't know what the detail is, but it clearly will involve not just more defence spending in Europe in general, but also more European countries stepping up and saying that they are prepared to put military force on the ground to support Ukraine's security and guarantee it in some kind of post-war scenario, so that you can get back to the Americans and say, look, this is how much the Europeans are prepared to do for this. Are you prepared to change your minds and give some kind of military backstop that the Prime Minister is asking for?
There's continuous coverage of the summit on the BBC News Channel, and Stephen Nolan's here with a 5 Live special rounding up the day's events from 7 o'clock tonight. Israel has stopped all humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister's office said the decision was taken because Hamas refused to accept a US proposal to extend the first phase of the ceasefire, which expired yesterday. Hamas says it wants to move on to the next phase instead. The Campaign for Better Transport has said a 4.6% rise in regulated rail fares in England and Wales, which took effect today, will pile further misery on hard-pressed households. The government said higher fares were needed to fund investment. A private spacecraft has become the second commercial lander to ever touch down on the moon. The expedition is the latest in a series of collaborations between NASA and private companies. There were cheers at mission control as the craft Blue Ghost reached the lunar surface.
3 contact sensors tripped. Engine shutdown confirmed.
IMU reports lunar gravity and it is stable.
All Khan, Chief Engineer on Ops. Y'all select the landing. We're on the moon.
And Hollywood's gearing up for its busiest night of the year. Emilia Perez leads the way at the Oscars with 13 nominations.
Celebrating women's voices.
Laughter means everything's okay.
Miss Me with Lily Allen and Makita Oliver.
We do go to all sorts of places, happy, sad, and everything in between.
It's been quite a lot.
Courtney Loves Women.
Celebrating women in music, the music they made, and the music that made me.
And Young Again.
Sarah Pascoe, are there things that you think, I'm not going there? Something happened to be really embarrassing, and I remember thinking, I hope no one ever finds out about this. And my next thought was, I'm going to talk about it tonight.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sports
with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Manchester United are 4 points behind Chelsea at the top of the Women's Super League after their 2-0 win over Leicester City. Manchester City need a win today to move back into the top 3. They're at Tottenham. Emily Herbert.
It's Tottenham 1, Manchester City 1. It's been a really end-to-end game so far. We should be 2-3 goals up by now. Spurs have done really well to keep City relatively quiet, although Martha Thomas has been subbed off with what looks like an ankle injury for new signing Olivia Holt, who created that equaliser for Beth England to loop in. That's her 8th goal of the season. But as you say, City will want to pick up all 3 points today if they want any chance of Champions League qualification. We've got 4 minutes till half-time. It's Tottenham 1, Manchester City 1.
Chelsea's lead will return to 7 points again if they win at Brighton this afternoon. 3 o'clock kickoff. Paul Scott's there.
Yes, where Chelsea hand a full debut to world record signing Naomi Girma. The American signed in January but has only recently recovered from a calf injury. She starts in the heart of that Chelsea defence here this afternoon. Sonia Bompasta's side are on a 24-match unbeaten run in all competitions. As you say, they're looking to reopen that 7-point cushion at the top of the WSL table following Manchester United's victory in the day's early game. But Brighton, well, they're pretty decent at home. They're 7 unbeaten in front of their own fans, and Fran Kirby starts for them as she lines up against her former club for the very first time.
We're approaching half-time in the other game. Still Aston Villa 0, Everton 1 and Crystal Palace 0. Liverpool 1 in the Scottish Premiership. Hibs beat Hearts in the Edinburgh Derby. It means Hibs move up to 3rd place in the league above Aberdeen, who dropped down to 4th. Overnight, Wigan Warriors beat Warrington Wolves 48-24 in a historic match in Las Vegas. Rugby League trying to crack America, the first regular season Super League game to take place in the US. Around 10,000 fans were in attendance. Wigan CEO Chris Radlinski spoke after the match about how it feels to win big in Vegas.
It's amazing for us all, absolutely. I never thought it'd be like this. It's bigger than I imagined, but what we deserve, I reckon. We've been through some challenges as a sport, but when you see the athletes and what they're putting in each week, to be on this big stage, I'm pretty chuffed for these guys at the moment.
And what impact do you think this game and the week more broadly can have on Super League moving forward?
It's amazing now for Wigan as a club, but I want everybody at home to I can't believe what's possible, Volunteer coaches on a Sunday morning. We've been through so much as a sport, so much effort that goes in behind the scenes, and we're in Las Vegas. It's exciting, look at it. 50,000 people. We should enjoy it and embrace it, mate.
And what's the plan for tonight now?
Oh no, they deserve it. These lads will go mental, hopefully. They stay out of trouble, they look after each other. And when you work so hard, you've got to reward them as well. So, Las Vegas, watch out.
Chris Radlinski speaking to Craig Wall, who also spoke to the Wigan captain Liam Farrell.
Never thought to see the day. Wigan Warriors over in Vegas, and 4,000 or 5,000 Wigan fans here as well, and just a great day, a great week. And yeah, it's been crazy, it's been out of the imagination. You couldn't believe what the week's been like, but it is a great end. Disappointing we conceded a few points at the end, but overall fantastic week. I think we've definitely done the club proud, and Super League as well.
And I know you've been in the game a long time. Where does this rank in terms of the moments of your career?
Finals are special and they'll always be close to my heart, but this is a one-off. It's very, very special, and if it never happens again, we'll remember this for the rest of our lives. But it's a great week.
In the other game in Las Vegas, Australia beat England 94. There's more Super League today. At Headingley, Leeds Rhinos against Castleford Tigers. Matt Newsom.
Yeah, we don't have the glitz and glamour and the whole shebang of Vegas, but we do have a game between two West Yorkshire rivals, separated by not much in terms of miles, but also plenty of big city bias in terms of the Cas fans have always had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder about the Rhinos. The Rhinos still yet to really hit top form under Brad Arthur. 1 win and 1 defeat from their opening 2 Super League games. Cas have Danny Maguire in their coaching box. 426 games. There's a lot of credit in the bank, but I don't think it'll go very far today. The Leeds fans will certainly be gunning for him, and his side have it all to do, having lost all 3 of their games, including League and Cup, so far this season.
Matt, are you trying to say that St Michael's Lane is not on a par with the Las Vegas Strip? I used to live on St Michael's Lane. I demand it gets due respect.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Headingley's not a bad little run, is it? And you've obviously got the Otley run, which isn't a million miles away. So yeah, you're right. It's got its merits, but it doesn't maybe have that same sparkle. But we're all about it. They probably don't have a Sainsbury's local
Absolutely.
in Las Vegas.
Now we're talking.
Exactly.
Now we're talking.
Or other supermarkets are available.
Many of them. Right. Thank you, Matt. Matt will keep us right up to date. Players are on their way back at St James's Park. So quick reminder, Manchester United Fulham is on BBC One at 4:30. You'll get updates of that during 6:06. But we're bringing you Newcastle Brighton in full. If we need extra time and penalties, entirely possible. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Paul Robinson and John Murray.
Yes, I'm sitting here inside St James's Park next to a man who I'm almost certain will have done the Otley run at some stage.
I couldn't run a bath these days, John. I don't know what you mean. I think I know what you're alluding to.
Yes.
Have you?
No, I never have, actually. Although I might be doing that this summer, but that's another story. We are watching a very interesting FA Cup tie between Newcastle and Brighton, which is level at 1-1. And that famous sound system is just about drowning me out as the Brighton players appear from underneath the Perspex dugout just down in front of us here in the Milburn stand. Newcastle's players are already out there, so they will be, as they started the match, Newcastle with Dubravka in goal, Trippier, Cher, Byrne and Livramento, with Lewis Hall missing with what sounds like a worrying ankle injury. And then in midfield, Tonali with Miley and Joe Linton, Barnes on the right, Gordon on the left, and goal scorer Isak up front. And Brighton also, all of their players now finally out on the pitch again as they started the match. Verbruggen in goal, Lamptey, Van Hecke, Webster and Estupinian, Baliba and Hinchelwood, Minte, Rutter, Mitoma and João Pedro. So 1-1 after Isak gave Newcastle the lead with the penalty in the 23rd minute, but Minte equalising, having conceded the penalty against his former club. Minte scoring from Pedro's pass in the 44th. And Newcastle kicking off at the start of the second half, but Brighton already in possession, attacking towards the Leazes end, where all of their supporters are watching down from on high, and Mitoma playing the ball through for Estupinian. Tonali coming across, didn't get a touch on it, and the ball runs all the way through for a goal kick.
He thinks he's got the corner, Estupinian.
Well, he's walking away to the corner flag. He's picked up the ball from a cone and then suddenly looks over his shoulder and sees that everybody else is back on the halfway line.
Everyone's left him. he stood on his own in the corner and taking a corner, wasn't he? And everyone else was lined up for the goal kick.
That's Paul Robinson alongside us, as well as the Otley run. Played for Leeds, Tottenham, Blackburn and England. And here's Tonali. Tonali did well there in the challenge against Rutter, came out with the ball, then slips it through to Isak. Isak pokes it away from Estupinian, but that took it wider. However, Isak's able to cross the ball over the top of Gordon, and it's cleared away by by Minte at the back post. Excellent play from Tonali. That's typical of the way that he's played this season.
Yeah, really good from Tonali. Spots the run of Isak once again in behind. It's just too big of a touch from Isak. Estepinian inadvertently does really well. He comes sliding across the front of Alexander Isak, which forces him into a big touch. Ends up on the byline, lifts it into the box and to no avail. But again, Isak on the shoulder in behind.
As Gordon has nipped the ball back and now bursts into the penalty area, goes down under the challenge that comes in on him from Lamptey. But I think the ball had got away from him. And the two of them, other than generally sprawling into the penalty area and looking hopefully at Anthony Taylor, it wasn't a big appeal. And Livramento has gone down, and also I presume that's Minte who is down over there, probably 25 yards away from one another. So we'll have a little bit of a stoppage here while they have a look at them. We'll get a word from Paul Robinson as well on that. Gordon burst into the box, but back to the WSL and Emily Herbert.
And we head into the break, one apiece. City score the opener against the runner play. A really easy cross from Miedemar to head in. Spurs responded well. England looped the equaliser into the back of the net. Half time, Tottenham 1, Manchester City 1.
Livramento just back on his feet. Suggestion being that he was stood on.
Yeah, by Minter. I think it was Minter coming together, the two of them. I think Minter was holding his shoulder for the initial coming together, but Livramento was stood on by Minter just before Anthony Gordon burst into the box there. The Gallagher end looking for a penalty, but no penalty given. There was nothing to be given. It was a big touch by Anthony Gordon. Referee got that one right, but again it just shows Newcastle's directness and willingness to run into the box. Anthony Gordon coming across Lamptey, it was just got his body in front of him, blocked him.
Just a little delay on the restart there, so VAR obviously looking at that challenge on Gordon by Lamptey, who, as I say, I think it's the right decision not to give a penalty, but it was dicing with danger, and they probably also looked at the challenge on Livramento as well. However, play resumes with no further action, and it's out of play for a throw into Newcastle on the far side. That throw was a little short to Byrne, who did well actually to win it against Pedro. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. The Emirates FA Cup 5th round tie. This to join Aston Villa and Crystal Palace and Bournemouth and Manchester City and Preston, who are already confirmed in the draw, which will be later this afternoon. So you'll have news of that during the course of 6:06 with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. It'll be after the Manchester United Fulham tie. And again, just to restate it, with big events going on in London, that there will be a 5 Live news special tonight with Stephen Nolan at 7 o'clock with everything that's going on with the conference of the leaders in London this afternoon. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1, 5 Live with the live news and indeed the live sport. World Service with us as well. Van Hecker with the ball halfway inside his own half, gives it to his left to the captain, Webster, and then Believer with a heavyish touch, but he's fouled by Miley. In fact, referee Taylor has played the advantage, but Gordon couldn't find the forward pass. It was blocked. Back to the halfway line, and Newcastle start again with Trippier, and then Cher goes down rather easily from the challenge that comes in on him. Free kick taken quickly by Tonali, but the pass a little behind Joe Linton, so Livramento had to be sharp, but he was. Lovely, beautiful footwork, actually a little dink past the sliding Minte, and so Gordon back to Livramento operating as the Newcastle left back in the absence of Hall, gets the ball back from Joe Linton in the area, but as he took it on and as the challenge came in, it bounced back onto the Newcastle player and through for a goal kick.
It's a brilliant one too. Livramento again showing ambition, raging forward down that left hand side. He's not afraid to get in the box, and it's something that's worked really well for Newcastle this afternoon. His initial little chip around Minter did really well to get past him into Joe Linton, who in turn returned the favour with a lovely ball in, just overruns it. Livramento out for a goal kick, but again good play by Newcastle down that left hand side.
5 minutes into the second half here at St James's Park on Tyneside, as Barnes puts the challenge in on Hinchelwood, who went down wanting a free kick. That's not given, and Newcastle take the throw forward from Cher. Remember that in this cup tie, in these 5th round ties, there are no replays anymore, so it would be extra time and penalties if necessary, as Brighton win a free kick halfway inside the Newcastle half. Joe Linton, who's already on a yellow card, again looks distinctly unimpressed with the awarding of that free kick to Rutter.
the free kick that Lamptey's just tried to take quickly. His teammate Ruta's laid on the floor holding his right ankle. Lamptey's put the ball down and smashed it against the back of Ruta's head. He was trying to play a quick free kick. Ruta turned round, he got up looking to have an argument with one of the Newcastle players, turned round and realised it was his own fullback that had done it.
They'll be having some fun on the training ground about that next week, won't they? As they will, I'm sure, about Estupinian not realising that he hadn't won the corner earlier.
It's a too good, too bad somewhere in there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, very much so. Free kick then for Brighton. Hinchelwood to take this, curls it in. It's just headed away by Burns, still not out of the area. Trippier heads it further away. Comes out to Mitoma. And then Estupinian wearing a tight pair of black gloves on what is quite a mild afternoon by recent standards, as Brighton go back to Webster in the centre circle. Left-footed ball over the top. Mitoma now allows it to bounce. Trippier arrives. Now Mitoma along the dead ball line into the penalty area, then works it back to Pedro. Pedro takes it wide again inside the box. He's looking for Estupinian. Here he is. Curls the left-footed ball into the back post. That's headed across. Takes a deflection which took it away from the 6-yard box. Tonali was able to clear that, but Brighton have got possession back from Gordon on the halfway line. They're having a good spell here. Brighton went 1-0 down, threatening to go 2-1 up.
Minter just got in Ruta's way there as the ball came back across the box. But Brighton, Mitoma did really well down this left-hand side. Kieran Trippier not quite getting close enough to Mitoma. He's allowing him a bit of space, but cross into the box. And Ruta just didn't quite drop for him. His own teammate took it off his toes.
Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Webster, no, that's got far too much on it. Although Byrne has actually headed it square. Cher passes it back to Dubravka, who plays it out, and Cher's in danger of losing this to Pedro. And then Pedro takes it towards the corner flag. Trippier's in there as well. Trippier and Pedro end up on the ground together. Then the ball bounces out of play, and referee Taylor says throw in Brighton. A little too casual from Newcastle.
There was no danger whatsoever, was there? It was just a long, hopeful, out of direction ball from Brighton through the middle. Misdirected header by Sharp, and they get themselves in all kinds of a mess. But you've got to give João Pedro the credit. He's the one that put the press on, and he made it happen for Brighton.
1-1. Webster again goes for that ball over the top of Trippier, but Trippier's wise to this, controls it, plays it back to Dubravka, who had to be quick against Ruta, but he was. Isak, who's not been able to get into the game in the second half, is then the ball bounces out of play, and that is given as a throw-in. Isak just helps Estupinian to his feet. So Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Brighton never won the FA Cup, reached the final in 1983. We were talking about it before the match. One of the FA Cup finals of my school days. I remember that very fondly. The 2-2 draw, and then the replay, which Manchester United won convincingly. But there were some great stories in that cup final, not least Jimmy Melia and his squad flying by helicopter to Wembley for the final. He wore bright ties and two-tone shoes, Jimmy Melia, I remember, as Webster sends a long pass forward. Livramento's able to cut that out, delayed from Byrne. Pedro's onto this. Pedro shoots, saved by Dubravka, and then turned away by Livramento. Pedro's shot too close to the Newcastle goalkeeper, but he still had to save it.
Sloppy again by Newcastle, giving away possession, surrendering possession in their own final defensive third. João Pedro's been a lot quicker since the turn of the half. Come on in the second half, press, gets his shot away.
Here they come again, Brighton, played all the way across. Oh, Mitoma's got that all wrong. He shanked it. The shot, it's come off the right side of his shin, and actually I think almost ended up behind it where he took the shot from. It bounces out for a throw-in.
He's hit that level with the 18-yard box. He's gone to curl it with the inside of his right boot into the top corner of Dubravka's left-hand goalpost, and it's hit his shin. The ball's bobbled up, hits his shin, and it's gone out of play on the far side behind where he actually hit the shot from.
It's what you might call, from Brighton, a comedy of errors. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. However, the better team at the start of the second half, and that's being reflected by the fact that Eddie Howe's going to make a triple substitution. Jacob Murphy, Bruno Guimaraes and Willock are all going to come on. Well, Lewis Miley makes way, so that's a straight swap with Bruno Guimaraes, the club captain. It's only the second match this season that he's not started. He's come in for a little bit of criticism lately. His performance is not quite to the high standards of recent times. Joe Linton also coming off, having recently come back, or just come back today from 5-match absence. And I'm presuming it's going to be Harvey Barnes. It is, who is the other player to make way. So Jacob Murphy, so we'll go over there onto the right-hand side. Jacob Murphy with the 6 goals that he's scored this season, including in the last home match here, the 4-3 against Nottingham Forest, which was a dramatic game. So a triple change for Newcastle.
Not surprised by those substitutions by Eddie Howe. I think Harvey Barnes has struggled. He started the game okay, struggled to get into the game, been a bit part player, not really mentioned him much. Murphy coming back in will be a like for that. Willett coming on for Joe Linton, and Gomeres coming in for Miley. Personnel change, but system will stay the same.
They needed a little bit of something though, Newcastle. Brighton have been the better team, and here they come again though, despite the changes. Estupinian now takes it halfway inside the Newcastle half. He's got Hinchelwood behind him. Jack Hinchelwood, the number 41 for Brighton, the son of the York City manager Adam Hinchelwood. They had a good win at Hartlepool yesterday in the National League. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he's here today, would you? Not far away. Here's Matoma, left-footed ball across, but cleared away by Cher and out of play. And Brighton continue to threaten.
They've been the better team, Brighton, and I think the thing is, the key has been the high press. We spoke about the intensity that they play with. Actually, as soon as this second half has started, João Pedro's been the one, he's been the catalyst, and his teammates have joined him in behind. Minter and Ruta particularly. Thomas found more space on this left-hand side, but it's been the work rate as João Pedro has kicked off this second half.
Another ball at the edge of the Newcastle box that Byrne has to head down and across. Cher. There's no Botman, by the way, not involved at all today, although I think he's not too far away from a return as Brighton play it forward again. Fabian Hürzeler down there, urging his team on, just down to our left there. A young coach, as I say, 32 years old this week, the American-born German, watching Brighton being forced back into their own half by Livramento, who wins a throw-in, and that's a welcome respite for Newcastle.
Yeah, the thing with Hürzeler, I mean, we spoke before the game, didn't we? He never gets overly carried away with a run of results, good or bad, and I think that's one thing that the Brighton hierarchy have enjoyed watching with him. I think his team, they're starting to get an identity. The intensity of the press is clearly there. They press in numbers, but it's been impressive after that defeat at Nottingham Forest. It was a bone-shattering defeat, 7-0 away at Forest. Since then, they've beaten Chelsea twice, beaten Southampton and beaten Bournemouth. So he's a very balanced, level-headed coach.
Yes, he is. I have to confess, the first time I saw him in the flesh earlier this season, he walked into a press room and I sort of glanced up and I assumed it was one of Brighton's press officers. He looked so young. That's maybe also an indicator of my age. Cher giving it away to Hinchelwood. Now to Matoma in the box. Matoma's ball hits Cher. Hinchelwood trying to work a position, but Trippier did well. Got a touch on that, and then Willock draws the foul. And Newcastle have got away with it again. Too many mistakes. They're going to pay for one soon.
They've been poor in possession of Newcastle. Talked about Brighton's high press. Yes, you give them credit for trying to force the mistakes, but simple passes from Byrne, from Shaw, Trippier, giving away possession in their own final third, creating their own problems.
Livramento down the line. This is better from Newcastle. Gordon on the surge. Left-footed cross from him, but that's taken unfussily by Verbruggen at the near post, and Brighton have got it back. 1-1 the score. 5 Live and the World Service listen as well on BBC Sounds, where you can pause, rewind, listen again, and also you can tell your smart speaker to listen to our commentaries. Just say play Radio 5 Live and they will appear there for you. And Brighton, as Cher stepped into Rutter, I thought that might have been given as a foul. Used his shoulder into the back of Rutter, who's stayed on the ground. But referee Taylor says no. Here's Bruno Guimaraes now to Isak, who takes the ball out to the right, then begins to come in field. A little shimmy, lovely ball through. Bruno Guimaraes' ball across is cleared away by an adjusting Lamptey. Out for a corner to Newcastle in front of the Gallagate end.
It was a wonderful pass by Alexander Isak into the path of Bruno Guimaraes, just down the side of Webster, just out of reach of the Brighton centre-half. Played him in that tight, they actually had an angle to get a shot in. Got the ball across goal, and Tariq Lamptey coming in at the far post. He goes with his wrong foot to ensure he doesn't put it in his own goal. Concedes a corner, but a good clearance by Lamptey.
Trippier to take this. Kieran Trippier Only his 10th start this season. So effective with the set pieces. Trippier takes this to the near post, and of course the commentator's curse comes into play as he hits a really poor corner that is blocked by the first defender, and Brighton break away downfield with Mitoma, who's been chased by Murphy. Mitoma playing the ball infield, passing it straight to Gordon, and Gordon now forced back to Livramento. Livramento in two minds. Trippier decisively passing it back to goalkeeper Dubravka, and now Dan Burn long and forward from him. Isak is beaten in the air by Van Hecke, and Tonali is able to pick up possession for Newcastle. 1-1 if you've just switched onto us on 5 Live, and that's a tug back on Livramento by Belieber, who's on a yellow card. You can hear the Newcastle fans just pointing that out to Anthony Taylor, who will be well aware of that, of course. As Trippier, lovely ball down the line, this for Murphy. Murphy takes it on into the full-back position, still going, low ball across, but that's blocked by Webster. Shouts for handball, that's not given. Trippier wins the ball ahead of Mitoma, and then Murphy plays it off Mitoma cleverly. He was done there, Mitoma, by Murphy, who wins the corner for Newcastle.
Does well down the right-hand side to win a corner for his team. It's got a real cut-tie atmosphere, hasn't it? Maybe a little bit quieter earlier on in the game. First half, we've got two teams now really going at each other.
Murphy, who's got a little bit of cheek about him, hasn't he, Jacob Murphy? Gordon with the cross. It comes for Bruggen and punches it away. Ruta is chasing the ball. Then Mitoma in on a challenge with Murphy. Gordon comes back into his own half. This is a very, very competitive cup tie. Trippier then passing the ball back to Dan Burn, who with his side foot gives it to Willock. Willock, who scored the 2 goals against Birmingham at St Andrews in the previous round. Willock is rather fortunate there. Van Hecke has given it back to him, and in his white boots, Willock back to Tonali. Now centrally Bruno Guimaraes. That's gone all the way to Trippier. Trippier lifts the ball into the back post. Verbruggen comes diving, gets a right fist to it on the full extension to punch it away. And Newcastle now suddenly threatening to have a better spell in the match, with almost 20 minutes of the second half played. And in fact, with that, I see Fabian Herzl just calling to some of his substitutes. I think he feels that his team need a couple of changes now. Bruno Guimaraes goes infield, then outside. Hinchelwood puts in the challenge. Mitoma dispossessed by Trippier. Trippier in on the challenge again with Estupiñán, who goes down. No free kick given. Trippier with a chance to pull the ball right to the edge of the box. Dan Burn steps in, but then loses out as it's taken away by Lamptey. And Brighton pull forward with Ruta and Pedro. Newcastle have black and white shirts back. Lamptey is dispossessed by Tonali. And now Newcastle will counter the counter with Anthony Gordon, but he's not at full tilt. And Trippier receives it from him, and Newcastle actually just slow the momentum here, and that's invited Brighton back onto it. And Belieber now, lovely change of feet from him in the centre circle. Well, he's not got too many options up front with him. They're arriving now, and Ruta doing extremely well to bring it infield, but then shoots into defenders on the edge of the box. Mitoma, Pedro, back to Mitoma, left corner of the penalty area, infield to Pedro twisting, and then looking to his left. Estupiñán, deep cross into the far side of the penalty area, and then it comes out to Belieber. The clearance from Livramento. Webster back to the left-hand side to Estupiñán. Hinchelwood available. Newcastle rather static as Hinchelwood goes actually back towards the centre circle to Van Hecke, who rolls the ball out towards the right-hand side to Minte. Minte, who scored the equaliser in the first half, if you've just joined us. 1-1 it is. Newcastle with the early lead through the Isak penalty. Van Hecke playing it in. Hinchelwood with a header from near the edge of the box that Dubravka is able to quickly make ground to his right and catch the bouncing ball.
The atmosphere is crackling, isn't it, inside St James's Park now? We've got two teams who really are going for this. It's almost like the two managers have said at half-time, right, we'll give it 20 minutes, and then under no circumstances do we want extra time. Both teams are going at each other. It's a really stretched, open game. There's so much space on the pitch in front of us.
25 minutes to go of the 90 plus added time. There will be an early start for 6:06 tonight, round about 5 o'clock with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton, so you'll be able to get your calls in for that. We may yet have extra time here. Gordon taking on Lamptey gets the cross in, that's headed away, chested down by Bruno Guimaraes. Then Isak shoots, but it's blocked by the diving defender, who threw himself in front of it and blocked it behind. Hinchelwood flat on his face inside the penalty area. He took the full force of Isak's shot and deflected it wide for a corner.
It's a brilliant block. It really is. Good midfield recovery run. Bruno Guimaraes does excellently well, plays it into the path of Alexander Isak. His shot's on target, it's flying towards the goal. Hinchelwood puts his body on the line and takes one right under the chin in the midriff. Really good defending by the Brighton midfielder. Gives Newcastle another corner on this right-hand side. Anthony Gordon, while Hinchelwood just gets his breath back. Looking like they're going to make some substitutions as well.
Yes, talking about Isak's shot being on target, Matt Target is going to come on for Newcastle. Also, a double change for Brighton. Gruda and Diego Gomez, the recently arrived Paraguayan, is going to come on. But it's a Newcastle corner. 1-1 on 5 Live in the World Service. Gordon with the corner. Deep towards the far post. Byrne went up for it, but it was headed away by Webster. Comes back for Newcastle low, and Isak, then it's clipped across by Livramento, and Willock in the middle couldn't head it goalwards, just a little glance on it, that's all. He was 4 yards out and he couldn't direct it on target.
How has he missed? I've got no idea how Willock's missed that opportunity. It's brilliant wing play by Livramento down the left-hand side, puts a cross in across the goal line, 3-4 yards out. It can be no more than 4 yards out. It's a free header. Willock goes up and he doesn't get any connection on the ball whatsoever. Glances across the front of his forehead, and they all look round at each other in absolute amazement, and the goal's gaping. Willock still can't believe it.
Yeah, what a chance that was to head Newcastle back in front, but not taken by the man who, as I say, played so well in the fourth round at St Andrews against Birmingham City with the 2 goals, which, if you remember, actually, Paul, was shortly after he missed chances here against Fulham, and then was the subject of absolutely hateful online abuse, and he spoke about it very well. He spoke with John Southall in the interview after the match at St Andrews. Dealt with it brilliantly, but clearly and obviously nobody should have to put up with that. Right, Brighton are making these 2 changes, and Lamptey and Mitoma. So I think it's Lamptey and Mitoma coming off, Minte rather, for Brighton, and Kieran Trippier making way for Newcastle, with Target coming on at left back. So Livramento is moving back across to right back. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. We're into the last quarter of the 90 minutes here. Did I hear that we were going to get the latest on Brighton in the WSL? I wonder. Or not.
It is Brighton.
It is Paul Scott. Hello, Paul.
Hello, John. Brighton 0, Chelsea 0 here. 12 minutes played. It's been an assured, confident start by the home side. Chelsea barely getting out of their own half at the moment. No real clear-cut opportunities. 10 minutes gone. It's Brighton 0, Chelsea 0.
Yeah, correction. Baliba and Minte went off. Lamptey is still on the field. The 2 Brighton changes with Gruda and Gomez coming on. And the ball's out of play for a throw-in to Brighton halfway inside their own half, which is being contested by the Newcastle United supporters. So Brian Gruda, the 20-year-old German under-21 international, coming on into the midfield. And as I say, Diego Gomez, who was recently signed in the recent window from Inter Miami. So he was playing last year with Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez and Busquets and Jordi Alba. Now here he is in the FA Cup on Tyneside at St James's Park. It's an interesting life being a top-level footballer, isn't it?
That certainly is, isn't it? Into Miami to Brighton to Newcastle for the weekend.
Yes, here is Pedro just outside the box. Plays it back, Hinchelwood on his right foot, then he works it back, and here is Gomez just outside the penalty area, given away by Mitoma. Gomez in on the challenge, but it bounces back for Newcastle on the edge of the box. 20 minutes to play. Away from Murphy, and then forward from Bruno Guimaraes. Lovely change of feet from Isak. Did exceptionally well with Brighton players either side of him there. Livramento now on the right hand side, and then Hinchelwood in on the challenge with Bruno Guimaraes, just shoved him over. The Brazilian went down, wins the free kick for Newcastle in the left back position. It's ebbed and flowed beautifully, this cup tie in the second half, but now we've entered the last 20 minutes. Newcastle attacking, as you say, Paul, down the hill towards the Callagate end.
It's a difficult end to get out of when you're the visiting team. The away team at Newcastle put the pressure on you. This time they got a free kick. Anthony Gordon on this right-hand side. Actually, Anthony Gordon, since the substitution, he's come over to this right-hand side. You said you thought he'd start there. He started on the left, didn't he? And now he's out on the right-hand side. Willock playing higher up the field as well. Jacob Murphy back on the field. Newcastle now, they won't want to go to extra time with what they've got coming up. So say West Ham next week, cup final the week after. Extra time's the last thing they want here.
1-1. Gordon with the free kick, raises his left arm. Gordon's delivery, headed away by Van Hecke. Comes out to the edge of the box, shot from Murphy. That was blocked on the edge of the penalty area. Estupinian is running it away to the halfway line. Murphy's done well, actually, and puts him under pressure and wins the ball back. And Murphy now has options either side. Arnie overhits the ball through to Isak, and it runs away behind for a goal kick. Another opportunity wasted for Newcastle.
That's really poor by Jacob Murphy. He does so well in the instance, winning the ball back off Estepinian high up the pitch. Immediately attacks this Brighton back four, and he's got 2 or 3 options, and he picks the right option. Alexander Isak is the right option in behind that back four. He just overhits a simple pass, and it runs harmlessly out for a goal kick. Great work by Jacob Murphy, winning the ball back. Then the initial counter-attack, just the last ball, the last pass.
Aberdeen Dundee United will be underway now. 3 o'clock. What time is it now? Yes, 3:15. So Aberdeen 0, Dundee United 0. The latest score after Hibs beat Hearts earlier by 2-1. And in this FA Cup tie for Bruggen, the Brighton goalkeeper just turning it to his left to Webster, who off balance strikes the ball downfield and it drifts out of play. So more FA Cup football tomorrow night. Nottingham Forest, Ipswich, 5 Live, the place to listen to that. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, European commentaries. We will be all over Europe, starting 5:45 Tuesday with Club Brugge against Aston Villa. So an early start Tuesday. And Brighton sweeping forward now. Pedro, right side of the box, Tonali chasing. Still going Pedro, twisting and turning. He's got the option there as well of Gruder available, but in the end he wins a corner, Brighton corner from the right-hand side that they take short. And Gruder back to Pedro. Pedro over there on the right side. Lamptey's available inside the box if Pedro wants to use him, but no, keeps it and then plays it back to Van Hecke. And then Webster and Estupinian. And now to the left to Mitoma, and Mitoma running at Byrne, and then playing it square to Gomez, and then Hinchelwood back to Webster. This is good from Brighton, keeping possession inside the Newcastle half and threatening. Mitoma pulls the ball right across the 6-yard box. No one in yellow to get a touch for Brighton, and played away by Tonali up towards Gordon. Gordon works the ball right across the field. Murphy now. Murphy with support from Livramento. Murphy's still going. Brighton getting men back, but Livramento has slipped there by Estupinian. Livramento tried to take advantage of that, but the ball into the penalty area was blocked. Tonali though onto the loose ball. Now Murphy. Murphy's cross over the top of Isak. Comes out. Oh, Livramento misses his kick completely on the edge of the penalty area, and it bounces nicely for Ruta to be able to carry it away for Brighton. And then the pass is deflected forward. Byrne is going to get there first for Newcastle and passing it back to Dubravka. Newcastle 1, Brighton's men 1. More on Brighton's women from Paul Scott.
It is Brighton 0, Chelsea 1 here. The visitors scoring with their first meaningful attack. Lauren James with some fancy footwork down the right-hand side. She stood the cross up for Sandy Baltimore, who volleyed in the opener. Brighton 0, Chelsea 1.
That's a 3 o'clock kick-off, and the 2 o'clocks in the WSL. Aston Villa 0, Everton 1. Crystal Palace 0, Liverpool 1 is still the score there. And Tottenham 1, Manchester City 1. After earlier, Manchester United won 2-0 against Leicester. And Mitoma now. Mitoma just forward of the centre circle. To his left to Gomez, then Pedro, the tall Pedro, back to Gomez. He's going to have a goal, but the ball curls away over the angle of post and bar by a couple of yards, and it's a goal kick to Newcastle. 1-1, Paul Robinson.
It's a strange strike that by Gomez. It looked like it took a deflection the way that he shaped up and it went over the Bravka's crossbar, but this game now is so open. Both teams looking to win this game. There's a lot of space in the midfield and the wide areas. One chance at one end. Mitoma found himself in a really good position, smashes it across the 6-yard box. Could only be 2 or 3 yards from the Bravka's line. Nobody there in a Brighton shirt. to tap the ball into an empty net. Newcastle go down the other end and have a lovely opportunity. What have we got left? 15 16 minutes left. There's a lot of football left to play.
However, one goal now could win it. One goal could send whoever scores it into the quarter-finals. That might be enough. Newcastle, who've not won the FA Cup for 70 years. Brighton have never won it. Newcastle attacking down the left, and it's worked along the dead ball line by Willock, and Verbruggen had to be careful there. He was right down near the foot of his post, but the ball was already out of play, and it's a goal kick to Brighton.
It looked initially like he took a chance there, Verbruggen, but looking at the replay, he put his right knee down by the post just to ensure that nothing could squeeze through. Again, good move down the left-hand side from Newcastle. Anthony Gordon that time into Willock. Cross came to nothing.
So it's a goal kick for Brighton in front of the Gallagate end. We're seated in the Milburn stand here, the dressing room side of the ground. Brighton playing this out from the back. Last time Newcastle won the FA Cup in 1955, Jackie Milburn scored after 45 seconds as Mitoma is fouled by Bruno Guimarães. Gomez takes a quick free kick downfield. That's asking too much of Estupiñán. No way he's going to reach that, and it bounces out of play for a throw-in to Newcastle. Estupiñán chasing that looked a little bit like James Ward-Prowse chasing David Raya last weekend. He was never going to get there as the ball bounced past him. And another double change for Brighton coming right up. They've already made two changes, and Newcastle with the ball at the back. Vifa and also Danny Welbeck coming on, who scored the winner here. Danny Welbeck, I thought we'd see him at some stage. Brighton coming forward. Here's Gomez on the edge of the box. Important challenge comes in on him from Bruno Guimarães. Back to Gomez though. Diego Gomez, not quite sure whether to go left or right in the end. Played it square to Gruda, whose pass into the penalty area was intercepted by Murphy. Rattles about, back to Brighton. And Hinchelwood in on the challenge. Pedro, here's Ruta, 25 yards out, forced wide by Willock. And then Lamptey is there to pick up the pieces. Lamptey's cross, headed away by Byrne, comes out to the edge of the area. A double ricochet, Mitoma gets it down. Then the shot by Gruda on the edge of the D, leaning back. And you all know what happens if you lean back, high over the top of the bar.
And for all the good quality football that we've seen in the free-flowing attacking sing from both sides, both looking to win the game, there's been no real clear-cut opportunities. The decision-making in the final third, the last strike on goal or the last pass, it's just been missing. I can't really remember either goalkeeper being overly tested. 2 goals in the first half, but in the second half, there's been no real chances for either side where you thought should have scored.
So Danny Welbeck is coming on. The evergreen Danny Welbeck at the age of 34 now, who last time the teams met here at St James's Park, the winning goal was scored by Danny Welbeck. And Ruta makes way for him, and the other change sees Estupiñán being replaced by Mats Vifa. So Vifa is going to go across to right back, Paul, and Lamptey's moved into the left back position.
And looking at Danny Welbeck as well, it's a clear shape change from Brighton. They've gone to a 4-4-2, traditional 4-4-2. Danny Welbeck immediately has gone up alongside João Pedro. There's no hiding this formation, you can see it from high up here.
So Newcastle 1, Brighton 1, as Isak, who's just receiving some instructions there, I noticed on the side of the pitch, is eased into by Lamptey, and Brighton have got it back in the 6-yard area. Clearance towards the halfway line. Byrne is able to get up high, bounces back to Pedro. There's a bit of harem-scarum about this, isn't there, at the moment? As Brighton come forward on the right-hand side, it's played back centrally, and Grudo, but Bruno Guimarães just stepped in to win it back. He was being pulled back by Hinchelwood, and that's a free kick to Newcastle. 10 yards inside their own half, as Bruno Guimarães just says to Anthony Taylor, what about that in terms of... I think he was asking the question about a potential yellow card for Hinchelwood.
Neither team are having any real sustained length of possession. Both are struggling to get a foothold in it. The turnover of possession is very, very quickly. 2, 3, 4 passes. It's very frantic. Both teams are closing down, trying to win the ball back, which is leading to that type of game. There's neither team that's dominating possession.
No. 10 minutes to go. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1, 5 Live and the World Service from the BBC. I've mentioned, Paul, that quite possibly one goal would be enough to win it, but I am officially not ruling out extra time. It's got that feel, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
Another goal in the Brighton-Chelsea WSL match. Paul Scott.
Chelsea weren't ahead for long. 22 minutes on the clock. It's Brighton 1, Chelsea 1. An equaliser from Marissa Olislagers from a narrow angle. Brighton 1, Chelsea 1.
Well, I thought Anthony Gordon might have been pulled back in the box there by Gruder. And I think VAR will have a look at that. Anthony Gordon has taken a long time to get to his feet. Brighton are attacking. Cher, though, is able to pass the ball forward. And Matt Targett passes it to Willock, and Willock now down the left-hand side runs the ball out of play. Now let's keep an eye on Anthony Taylor here. Yeah, he's telling Brighton to delay the restart. So VAR, the video assistant referee James Bell, will be having a look at this tug by Gruder on Anthony Taylor, and we're watching the replay, Paul. Is there enough there?
No, I don't think so.
I think
it's a
so
really
either.
good ball over the top from Targett initially, puts Anthony Gordon the wrong side of Gruder, but to Gruder's credit, it's actually Gordon who grabs his shirt. There's a coming together, and in a similar way to Everton last week, Gordon fell the wrong way if he was being pulled back.
And I'm afraid Anthony Gordon does have a certain reputation, doesn't he, of going down rather easily, and that has been quickly dismissed. So it is still Newcastle 1, Brighton 1, and Gordon now working at foot to Isak. Quick offside flag there against Isak, who must have been clearly offside, as Gordon is then all over the back of Van Hecke, who's gone down in the box, and Brighton's players don't like that. Pedro's come. He's never shy of getting involved in these sort of incidents, Pedro. He's ended up with his finger pointing in the face of Gordon, and we've now got several players gathered around. Oh, there's a red card! There's a red card in there! Anthony Taylor's produced a red card. Now, whether that is for Pedro or whether it's for Gordon, I'm not entirely sure. We'll just have to see who's going to leave the field. There was pushing and shoving in there. Pedro, as I say, confronted Anthony Gordon and pointed his finger into his face. So whether it was the way that Anthony Gordon reacted, that could be a yellow card. They did come together, the two players. And I've got a feeling, it might be Anthony Gordon.
He's gone over the top of Van Hecke, just seen the replay now. He's overrun the pass. Van Hecke's got the wrong side of him. He knows he can't get there, Anthony Gordon. He's run into Van Hecke, and with two hands, he's pushed physically into the side of Van Hecke's head and ear. Anthony Taylor saw it clearly. Anthony Gordon was looking for a penalty. It looked more like frustration to me, but he's actually put his palm, the base of his palm, into Van Hecke's head as he's falling over, and he's pushed the Brighton defender with force, and Anthony Taylor had absolutely no hesitation in sending him off.
And you know what that means? Straight red card, violent conduct. That's going to be a suspension for the Carabao Cup final for Anthony Gordon.
That's a blow. That's a real blow. And that was certain. There was no need for that in that situation. That's frustration. It's not retaliation. He's lashed out there in pure frustration. Maybe not getting the penalty decision 5 minutes earlier. That was something maybe playing on his mind. He's below us now, berating with the fourth official. He's saying, I think he's talking about the earlier penalty decision. Fourth official's got his arm around him. He's just gesticizing with his hands. Two have come together. He's been sent down the tunnel. So there's one incident there where Anthony Gordon thought he should have got a penalty 5 minutes earlier. Van Hecke there in the box once again came into the side of Anthony Gordon, and out of pure frustration he pushed his base of his palm into Van Hecke's head as he was falling over, right in front of the referee. Referee gives him a straight red, and as you say, disappointment for Anthony Gordon, but it's his own doing.
Well, this is like 2023 all over again for Newcastle United. I remember being here when Nick Pope was sent off against Liverpool, and as a result was suspended for the Carabao Cup final, and that straight red card means it'll be an instant suspension for him. And Isak is also leaving the field here. He's going to be replaced by Callum Wilson. Alexander Isak, who missed midweek with a groin problem. Now he's walking off easily enough, Alexander Isak. And what's our amateur reading of this?
Just about to watch him coming together with Eddie Howe. No,
yeah,
he's okay.
Quick.
Yeah, he's
clap
okay.
the fans, he's all right.
The physio did walk off with him. The physiotherapist went on to treat Alexander Isak. They both walked off together, but actually the signal that he's just given Eddie Howe, he said, "No, look, I'm okay. It's nothing serious by the look of it."
Paul, what do you make of that red card? Is that fair enough decision?
Petulance. That's all it was. Petulance and frustration. Anthony Gordon felt hard done to that he didn't get the earlier penalty, and it was a straight red. I think he had no need to do what he did. I'm not so sure the contact between his hand and Van Hecke's head, but as soon as you put the hand there in that position and you go, you have that forward momentum and you push him in the head, Van Hecke went down holding his head, holding his ear. As you can hear by the Newcastle fans in the background, they weren't overly endowed with the decision, but actually the base of Gordon's palm into the side of his head, that motion is what the referee's seen. He's not got a monitor to detect the force of it. It's stupid by Anthony Gordon, it really is.
So costly. I think the feeling is from Newcastle, they need all hands on deck for that Carabao Cup final against Liverpool 2 weeks today. Here's Lamptey on the left, and more importantly as well, in the here and now, they're playing with 10 men against Brighton in this FA Cup tie.
So let's break it down simply. Rightly or wrongly, whether it was a red card or not, or whether there was enough force or not, Anthony Gordon should not have given the referee the opportunity to send him off. He had no need to do what he did in that situation, and by doing what he did, he gave the referee an opportunity to send him off.
Corner to Brighton that Gruda is going to take. It's 1-1 deep in the 90 minutes. Ball all the way across. Hinchelwood with a shot, that's blocked. Comes out Mitoma with a shot, that's blocked as well inside the penalty area. Newcastle with plenty of black and white stripes in there, even though they're down to 10 men. Gruda just outside the box on the left hand side. Here's Welbeck stroking it infield towards Webster, then back out to here, the left hand side to Gruda, the number 8, who takes on Murphy, who does well actually. Livramento now with Welbeck. Gruda is forced to play it back to Webster near the halfway line. 2.5 minutes to go. 2.5 minutes to go with the score at 1-1. An extra time looming. Latest in the Super League on Leeds Castleford from Matt Newsom.
Yeah, Leeds Rhinos 10, Castleford 0. The Rhinos taking this game by the scruff of the neck. Jake Connor with a solo try skipping through. Keenan Palacia, all raw power. And now the Rhinos have a 10-point lead with a kick to come.
Brighton with the extra man. Van Hecke to the edge of the box. Pedro bounces back to Wilson. Callum Wilson is dispossessed. Brighton again, they're finishing strongly here. 2 minutes to play, plus added time. Lamptey up towards the edge of the Newcastle box, slips a little ball into the area. Mitoma bounces across. Gruda was there, but the challenge came on him. Hinchelwood's going to have a go. That's blocked on the edge of the area. Then Lamptey with the curler that at no point threatened to curl into the top right corner. It was wide and high by a couple of yards. Goal kick Newcastle 1-1. Paul Robinson.
It's all Brighton now as this game comes to a close. Newcastle very, very quickly trying to regroup in a defensive shape. Eddie Howe down beneath us trying to get messages onto the pitch as to how he wants his team to set up. Callum Wilson's going to cut a very lonely figure up there as a lone striker. Kieran Trippier's tucked inside. Livramento at right back. Very, very defensive from Newcastle. They're just going to try and get to this final whistle.
Callum Wilson, who's barely played this season. It's his 10th appearance, turned 33 this week, 33 on Thursday, and Mitoma has now sat down, but that looks like cramp to me. I'm laughing because Rob, sitting next to us, our producer, just did a sort of piece of hand signalling there that reminded me of Bill Shankly in the 1974 FA Cup final. And with Mitoma, I think it's just cramp, Paul. Again, we're giving it the amateur view.
Yeah, he looks it. I mean, he went down initially. And if any player on the pitch goes over and grabs somebody's leg and bends a toe back, that's the universal signal for cramp, isn't it? But as Eddie Howe now uses his opportunity, actually both managers do. It's become quite a thing now, hasn't it, in the Premier League and in the FA Cup, that when there is a long stoppage in play or an injury break, the two managers use it as a timeout. Down below, as we're seeing both sets of players in a huddle, goalkeepers as well, both sets of players, goalkeepers, every single player on the pitch is in a huddle, and they're using it almost as a half-time team talk, timeout if you like.
But if it is to be extra time, Brighton have the man advantage, and you have to consider that they would be favourites, don't you?
The way that the game's ending now, coming towards a conclusion, and running towards the last of the 90 minutes, Brighton are certainly having the better play. Newcastle defensively looking just to see it out.
We're going to see Solly March coming on, who is still feeling his way back, and that's it for Mitoma. So maybe it is more serious than just cramp. But Solly March coming on. Solly March, who scored against Norwich just after his comeback, but this is just his 5th appearance, all of them as a substitute after that 14 months out with his knee problem and then further injury issues. 6 minutes of added time then, and then it will be extra time if that has not produced a winning goal. And Lamptey in on the challenge there. He's on a yellow card. It's a second yellow for Lamptey for that foul on Murphy, and now Brighton are down to 10 men. And Jacob Murphy reacts as though Newcastle have just scored a goal by trying to whip up the Newcastle fans, which never normally takes much doing in any case. But now Brighton are down to 10 men.
I've never seen anything like that from Jacob Murphy, celebrating a sending off in that way, going over to the fans, celebrating a player being sent off. He did well, actually, Jacob Murphy. He gets the ball, he whips it round Lamptey. It's the tiniest of touches coming together. He leaves his leg there, so Lamptey collides with him. Lamptey slid in and he's put himself in that position. I think that's harsh. I really do think that's harsh, John.
Lamptey is off, and it's 10 against 10 now. And I refer you, Paul, to my earlier comments about Brighton being favourites. Now it's back 50-50.
Certainly is, and you can tell by the noise all of a sudden in this stadium. They believe that they've got the upper hand.
In fact, maybe 60-40. Bruno Guimaraes to take this. Extra time just a few minutes away, unless we can see another goal in the next few minutes. Bruno Guimaraes curling it in, and it's in! Fabian Schär! What a finish that is! The Swiss central defender finishing it, first time on the volley, perfect delivery. Newcastle in front in added time, and also looking at the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. Newcastle 2, Brighton 1.
Wow, the roof has just come off St James's Park. The sending off, the free kick, and now a goal. It doesn't get any better in football in terms for Newcastle. It's a wonderful delivery by Bruno Guimaraes. There will be a hint of offside in the middle. VAR will check, but it looks like Schär's just held his run. He meets it on the volley, 8 yards from goal on the side foot. There's still a lot to do for the centre-half. I mean, that's a cultured finish for a centre-forward. It's a brilliant finish with his side foot into the back of the left-hand corner. It's a great free kick. It's a great finish. And what noise inside this stadium. But we have got a VAR check.
We've got a VAR check, so the semi-automated offside system will be swinging into operation. You thought on viewing that Schär might be okay. There were other players in an offside position.
I think it's just deciphering as to who was offside. Schär may not have been offside. There was a Newcastle player in front of him that did on first glance at the replay, that we've only had one replay, bearing in mind. There's a lot of Newcastle fans, hearts in the mouths, heads in the hands around this stadium. Silence falls upon us.
Well, everyone's waiting. The big screen, which is up there on the side of the stand, in amongst all of those see-through panels, is reading with a red background, checking goal, possible offside. Everyone waiting here. It depends how many bodies are in the way, whether the semi-automated system can work. This is to decide whether Fabian Schär's super volleyed finish stands, and whether Newcastle lead by 2-1 in added time at the end of this fifth round tie. And it looks as though it's going to be ruled out. Brighton supporters cheer up in the rafters. We've seen the rectangle drawn in the air by Anthony Taylor, and here is the announcement. And there it is, the goal is ruled out. Such disappointment in the home stands here. Great disappointment for Fabian Schär. He wouldn't have scored too many better goals than that. And it's back to Newcastle 1, Brighton 1, both teams down to 10 men.
Oh, the fun police are here again, aren't they? They've deprived of us another brilliant goal. You're looking at the replay now, and it's the tightest of margins. Fabian Schär, left arm, left shoulder, maybe ever so slightly offside, but we're back to where we were. Newcastle now having to hold on. Brighton got the momentum after that decision. The Brighton fans away to our left, they thought it was done, they thought it was over.
That was a tight one, but the semi-automated offside has done its job. I notice Fabian Hürzeler is just getting a ticking off from the fourth official, Robert Jones.
He should be happy now.
He should be. and correcting fluid has been applied. It is Newcastle United 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 1, with 5 minutes of added time played. But clearly now we're going to be adding on at least a couple of minutes. Given away by Cher. Now Gruda, square from him. Welbeck! Oh, it cut out by Cher. That was crucial. Oh, that was so close to Welbeck finding the pass. Referee plays advantage, even though Tonali was fouled, and then the ball is deflected away just to our left here into the media seats. Out of play for a throw into Newcastle. Tonali was fouled there. Newcastle players are saying, Bruno Guimaraes and Cher saying, what about that tackle on Tonali? The referee says play on, take the throw, Newcastle.
Yeah, it was a tackle by Gomez. It was a foul, but the referee allowed play to go on. Newcastle were in comfortable possession. It was their own fault that they lost possession. I don't think that was a bad decision by the referee, who is now hugely under pressure every time there's any type of small incident.
So we thought Newcastle had scored what would have been, I'm sure, a late winner. It's been ruled out by the semi-automated offside. It's Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Newcastle without Anthony Gordon, who's been sent off. He'll miss the Carabao Cup final. Suspended. Tariq Lamptey as well has had his marching orders. And Newcastle still with time to play before extra time. Take the throw that they've won. Livramento back to Tonali, the lightly bearded Italian, then passes it to Jacob Murphy on the right, whose celebrations of Lamptey's sending off have stuck in his throat after the Cher goal was ruled out. Tonali now, we're in the 8th minute of added time. I reckon 8. I reckon maybe 9, that'll be it. So maybe no more than a minute to play. This might be the last attack. As Murphy, oh, lovely ball through, but Bruno Guimaraes couldn't get there, and it just ran away down that hill of yours, Paul, behind for a goal kick.
It is. It's just slightly overhit. All gone very quiet again now inside St James's Park. People preparing themselves for what is the inevitability of extra time. But it's been a cracking cup tie, hasn't it? It really has. End to end, it's ebbed and flowed.
Been well matched, haven't they?
Yeah, very well matched, without any real clear-cut opportunities. Goalkeepers not having that much to do in the second half, but it's been a really, really good watch.
That big chance that Willock had with a header in the middle of the goal. I'm not sure he even got much on it, actually. And couldn't deflect it goalwards. Hinchelwood heading forward. Byrne is there at the back for Newcastle. It's 10 against 10 now, so there's technically more space out there. Bounces back to Hinchelwood near the halfway line. Socks halfway down his calves, then back to Webster. And Adam Webster just rolls it into the path of Hinchelwood, who takes it down the left. We are well into the 9th minute of added time now, as Tonali will turn the ball forward for Newcastle. Livramento to Bruno Guimaraes. Bruno Guimaraes just waiting, and then short pass forward towards Murphy. Still 10 yards inside their own half, Newcastle. As still we play on. Almost 9 minutes now of added time. Maybe there is time for one more Newcastle attack before we will have half an hour of extra time. And in fact, that is it. There we are, extra time. Boos for officialdom from the Newcastle United supporters, who saw that Cher goal ruled out for offside. But applause, I see, from the Brighton fans. Relieved 1,100 Brighton fans up in the top tier of the Leazes stand. So 1-1, an extra time, Paul.
Yeah, it's been a good game, as you said there towards the end of the commentary. It's been two teams, neither of them have sat back and defended and thought we'll try and get a result by taking it to extra time, or we'll nick one on the break. We've seen two teams that have played some decent attacking football without creating that many really clear-cut opportunities. Obviously now both teams down to 10 men. Think of that what you will. The Anthony Gordon one, I think, was... Listen, he put himself in a situation where the referee had no choice but to send him off with a motion that he made. With the power of the connection is yet to be decided. But we're doing what he did, and obviously leaving his team down to 10 men. Tariq Lamptey, I thought he was unfortunate to get sent off. I thought he was drawn into a challenge, and I think if that was the first 15-20 minutes of the game, he wouldn't have got booked for that challenge. I thought it was a harsh second booking, but we are where we are, and we've got another 30 minutes to look forward to.
Yep, so 2 goals in the first half, Isak's penalty and Yankuba Minte's equaliser. 2 red cards in the second half for Anthony Gordon and for Tariq Lamptey. It's Newcastle 1, Brighton 1, and extra time is coming.
And we'll be back with the two of you very, very shortly. There's been a goal in the WSL game between Brighton's women and Chelsea. Paul Scott.
2 minutes to go until half-time, and Brighton have turned this match on its head. They lead by 2-1 across from the right-hand side, converted by the captain Vicky Losada. Brighton 2, Chelsea 1.
Goal at Tottenham, Emily Herbert.
Manchester City are back in front from Firmino. It's an excellent goal. Dances around the defence in the box. Right foot, left foot, shifts her balance and slots it perfectly past Kopp in goal. It's Tottenham 1, Manchester City 2.
So that would take Manchester City back into the top 3 as it stands. Also, Liverpool leading 1-0 at Crystal Palace. First game in charge for Amber Whiteley, who's replaced Matt Beard as interim for now. Leif Smerud is the new Crystal Palace head coach. They are rooted to the bottom of the WSL. Into Super League, Leeds Rhinos, Castleford Tigers. Matt Newsom.
Yeah, Leeds 18, Castleford 0 in the final stages of this second half. Cass came off the ropes and tried to land a few shots on Leeds in boxing parlance, but Harry Newman's try from a fine kick from Ash Hanley was a good old whack to the chin, and Cass are back on the ropes again. It's Castleford who trail 18 points to 0 at Leeds.
Aberdeen dropped from 3rd to 4th in the Scottish Premiership earlier because Hibs beat Hearts by 2-1 in the Edinburgh Derby, and now Aberdeen could be dropping down again to 5th because they've just conceded another goal to Dundee United. It's Aberdeen 0, Dundee United 2. Let's check back in on India New Zealand in the Champions Trophy cricket. Henry Moran.
165 for 6, the New Zealand score. A ball left of the 40th over. They need 85 runs from 61 balls. It's all really on Kane Williamson. He's there on 79. And this for the right to finish top of the group. The winner of this match will play Australia in the semi-finals. The loser will play South Africa. Compelling contest, 10 overs left. New Zealand need 85 runs, 6 down.
Also very compelling contest at St James's Park. Extra time on the way in the next couple of moments. Paul Robinson, I was just looking at Sandro Tonali having a bit of a limp. Anthony Gordon's red card. He's going to miss the cup final. Whatever happens in the next 30 minutes, this is coming at a cost for Newcastle United.
It is, and we were surprised with the team selection initially, weren't we, how strong that both of these sides went. Eddie Howe clearly thinking that momentum and victories leading into a cup final is more beneficial, but we've seen Alexander Isak come off with the physiotherapist at his side. I think that was a lot more precaution rather than anything to worry about. But Gordon's sending off, I mean, it just really wasn't needed in that situation. I think he was frustrated because there was an incident 5 minutes before the red card where he felt as though he should have got a penalty. He hasn't been getting many decisions this afternoon, Anthony Gordon, and then there was just that incident there. I think that was just the tip of the iceberg for him.
Remember,
it was poor. Sorry, so it was just poor from him. It really was.
Manchester United, Fulham, 4:30 BBC One. We'll have a little look ahead to that later, but we're ready to go, John.
Yes, we are. No further changes. Anthony Taylor's just running across here to this side of the pitch. Whether this is a communication issue or not, I'm not sure. He's just handed something. I'm not sure what that was.
I think it was the coin, because I didn't think he'd need it. He gave it to his 4th official once he'd finished with it before the game, and I think he thought that he might not need it again this afternoon, but he's just had to do it again.
Okay. Did you not just put it in your pocket?
Well, there's a risk of losing it, I suppose. Maybe he's fallen foul of that before.
Maybe. Had his pocket picked. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1 then. Extra time in this Emirates FA Cup 5th round tie. And Newcastle United, black and white striped shirts, black shorts, black socks with the white tops. Newcastle playing in a cup final 2 weeks today. You'll hear that with us on 5 Live. Anthony Gordon will be sitting watching it after his red card. And it is 10 against 10 after Tariq Lamptey was also sent off late on in normal time. And Brighton begin this first period of extra time. Brighton in the slightly faded yellow shirts with the black pinstripes, playing from left to right towards the Gallagate end. And Brighton with the ball with Hinchelwood, who turns and gives it to his left to Webster. You've just switched on to us on 5 Live or the World Service. Newcastle thought they'd snatched it in added time with that goal from Cher, but it was ruled out by the semi-automated offside system. And Brighton dominating possession in the opening stages of extra time. Just in the central third of the field, though. They're not putting any pressure on Newcastle just yet. Webster again with it. Finds Tonali closing him down, so plays it across to Van Hecke, who's being booed because it was Van Hecke who was involved in the incident that led to Gordon's red card. Straight red card for Anthony Gordon. Bruno Guimaraes now, but he's pulled back by Gomez. And that's a yellow card for the the Brighton substitute Diego Gomez, and that seemed a cheap one as well.
Well, he's set a precedence, Anthony Taylor, and referees do that with a set of precedence, and the crowd get on the back. And when they give a yellow card for what you might not think was a yellow card offence, a lesser offence, say not so serious, if that happens during the game, which has been led down that road with Tariq Lamptey, he's had to send him off because of what he's given the bar for the yellow card, if you like. That tackle in this game, he's decided that level is a yellow card, so anything below that, he has to give him out.
But as we say, it was a straight red for Anthony Gordon, who chased Van Hecker into the penalty area, sort of shoved him over, didn't he? There was a sort of physically shoved him over, and then there was a question as well as whether he actually stood on him as Targett plays a ball through to Wilson in the penalty area. Callum Wilson scored in the previous round against Birmingham City. Wilson does well there, gives it back to Bruno Guimaraes around Gomez, then into the box, square to Willock, back to Livramento, who's on his right foot, lays it to his right, Murphy's ball across, headed away on the edge of the 6-yard box by Hinchelwood for Brighton. Comes back for Livramento again to Murphy. Murphy's going for the early cross this time, but Verbruggen comes and is able to clutch the ball just in front of the head of Callum Wilson.
That's good again from Newcastle. And I think in this first period of extra time, they've got the advantage with Willock and Murphy. They've got the wide players that can get forward, and they're not afraid to put the balls into the box for Callum Wilson. Those two wide players could be vital to Newcastle in this extra time.
In the Women's Super League, Brighton lead and Chelsea by 2-1. The 3 o'clock kickoff. You can hear commentary on Arsenal West Ham as well from 5:30. And right now on Sports Extra, the last knockings of the Champions Trophy match between New Zealand and India. That's on Sports Extra on your digital radio via BBC Sound. Newcastle attacking with Willock down the left wing. Willock, right-footed cross, chested goalwards by Guimaraes. Tonali couldn't get there. Verbruggen was able to drop down and clutch the ball in the 6-yard box.
You could see what Guimaraes was trying to do there. Really good vision. He sees Tonali in his peripheral vision, making a run from deep on his left-hand side. The ball's cut back from Willock onto Guimaraes' chest. He kind of over-chests it, if that's a saying. He over-chests it too far in front of Tonali, and he just can't get there.
Not sure I've heard that before.
It's more of you one for your podcast, John.
Thanks very much.
The vocabulary of a commentator.
Yes, over-chesting. Here's Van Hecker forward towards Pedro, went down very easily. Slight contact from Cher, but it's a free kick to Brighton inside their own half. Yes, that's the Commentator's View podcast that Paul's referring to this week, with special guest, in the absence of Ian Dennis, special guest Peter Drury. So me and Alistair Bruce Ball with Peter, the Commentator's View, which you'll find on BBC Sounds on the Football Daily feed. How's your dad getting on with BBC Sounds these days, Paul?
He's even managed to sync them up, John. So he turns the sound off on the television and listens to our dulcet tones.
Very good. I haven't asked that for a while. Pleased to hear that. Going from strength to strength. He hasn't got a smart speaker yet, has he?
I think that's slightly above his technological levels.
Ball played forward for Pedro, but Dan Byrne's able to come across and just Pedro bounces off him and Byrne volleys it out of play. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Could be a penalty shootout just like yesterday afternoon. That was a dramatic one. Bournemouth and Wolves. I was listening to Ali Bruce Ball and Rob Green on that one. Here is Brighton with Van Hecker. There are the chorus of boos again from the home supporters. Newcastle United fans, many of them have already made their arrangements for Wembley in 2 weeks' time, but will fancy another trip to Wembley, possibly. And in this particular FA Cup, yes, Manchester City are still going there, but there are possibilities, certainly. Here's Van Hecker, who turns and just rolls it to his left. I think Manchester United, Fulham, certainly an interesting one. Are Fulham the favourites? BBC One to watch that later. 6:06 will be on early, round about 5 o'clock, to take your calls on 5 Live. But Brighton, this is patient stuff from them. Solly March, not seen much of him since he's come on. Back to Van Hecker with the cross into the penalty area. Welbeck trying to pull it down on the edge of the box, takes a double deflection, but Dubravka's quickly out as Pedro ends up on the ground in a tangle with Byrne, and the two of them get to their feet.
Those two teams that we saw finish in the second half looking to win this game, going all out with spaces all over the pitch, that's very quickly changed. We're now seeing two teams who they don't want to lose this. when the other team has possession, they drop into a defensive shape, as they would with 10 men. Clearly these two teams now have gone out from all-out attack to actually being in a defensive shape, been hard to beat and hard to break down.
Are we calling this a back three now with Byrne and Cher and Livramento?
It looks that way, doesn't it? And with Targett, he's the one that's allowed to roam on this left-hand side.
And Murphy on the right.
Drop in and be that extra player in the midfield.
Yeah. Here's Grood out for Brighton, still inside his own half, and plays one for Pedro to chase, but Byrne, the puffing Byrne, got there first, arms whirring. Infield, Bruno Guimaraes shields that from Diego Gomez, and then Bruno Guimaraes is able to just roll it to Livramento. Here is Jacob Murphy, but he's challenged. But runs for Newcastle. Sandro Tonali. Newcastle do not actually play until a week on Monday, week tomorrow. That league match at West Ham on the Monday night. Then it's the cup final after that. Newcastle again on the right-hand side. Willock infield towards Bruno Guimaraes. Dan Burns joined the attack. Here's Matt Targett out here, has hardly played this season. There's only his 4th appearance of the season, Matt Targett. Back towards the centre circle. Then forward from Cher to Tonali, and then Targett. Willock, left corner of the penalty area. Willock, left-footed ball, that's headed away. Comes out for Pedro, who's being tugged back there by Tonali, and that might be a yellow card as well for Tonali, or will it? Well, that's been the equal of some bookings that we've seen during the course of this match. Pedro was wriggling away, and okay, he's only 10 yards away from the edge of his own penalty area, but he was breaking forward.
And on previous form from the referee, you would say consistency. Listen, we know that referees aren't robots and they're humans, and they're going to make mistakes at time. The biggest thing that you want as players, as an ex-player working in the media, is consistency. Be consistent with your decisions, not just across one game, but across several games, but actually within the same game at least be consistent, which Anthony Taylor hasn't been today.
No. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Just think as well, and Michael Oliver after yesterday, there has been quite a pile-on Michael Oliver, but I think, people need to remember, it depends what angle you see it from as the referee.
Yeah, I think there's been a question of Michael over this season now, hasn't there? I think he's the Man United of referees for me at the moment.
Welbeck gets away from Livramento. Welbeck in the box, lays it back, Gomez shot, goal, well saved by Dubravka, driven back across and cleared away on the edge of the 6-yard area. Brighton really threatening here. Then the shot is deflected wide from Vifa on the edge of the box. Newcastle did well to withstand that.
It's a brilliant save by Dubravka. Keeps his team in this game. A rare attack by Brighton. It's laid back to the edge of the box. And it's Gomez who gets the strike with his right foot. Low to Dubravka's right-hand side. Through a crowd of bodies, dives to the right. Keeps it out. Solid right hand. It's a really good save by Dubravka.
Oh, I think it struck an arm. It struck Livramento's arm. And it was goal bound. Here's the corner, an out swinger, which Pedro gets up, comes out to the edge of the box, plays restarted, so it's gone now, as the ball's played in by March to the back post. Newcastle headed away, then the volley from Hinchelwood, but he's got that all wrong, and it slices well away, wide and away and behind.
Showing some intent, Brighton, getting some encouragement from the manager down below us. He's encouraging them to go forward. That's the first opportunity in this period of extra time that we've had.
What about that shot though from Gomez?
It's a good save by Dubravka, really good save.
I thought it was deflected off the arm. No,
I think it was a different one that we're seeing.
Right.
That was Gomez from the edge of the box, side foot, inside of his right foot, solid power, straight through to Dubravka, who makes a really good save down to his right, just inside his bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, very good save. Crowd of players. Paul, you've been in that position. It's very easy, isn't it? If you've got players blocking your route. I don't know how late he saw it, but however late it was a very good save.
And you can only react until it's past the last body. That's why the balls that are whipped in from a cross are always difficult, and we see them creep in at the far post. And say, why didn't the goalkeeper react? Well, if you anticipate and somebody gets there before you look silly.
Oh, that's a poor pass away. Brighton now on the edge of the area. Pedro square. Gomez actually turns, gives it back to Welbeck just outside the penalty area. Gomez left side of the box. Welbeck peels away. Welbeck clips it across. Byrne heads it away. Newcastle under pressure here inside their own penalty area, but Murphy's able to get it down and pass it away, but he's given it back to Brighton. Brighton attacking once more. Latter stages of the first half of extra time in this FA Cup 5th round tie. Level at 1-1. Both teams have had a man sent off. Van Hecker, right-footed pass, but Vifa stretching, has to play it back to Webster, and then comes off Wilson and bounces out of play for a throw-in on the far side of the ground. At full time in the WSL in the Tottenham-Manchester City match, Emily Herbert.
3 points. It's been an excellent game for the neutral, end to end, but it was Fagino shifting her weight who struck the winner. Tottenham did well to nullify the threat and stay in the game, but City into the Champions League spots for now. Full time, Tottenham 1, Manchester City 2.
It's finished Aston Villa 0, Everton 2 and Crystal Palace 0, Liverpool 1 in the 2 o'clock kickoffs. Van Hecker in on the challenge on Willock, sliding just in front of the Brighton box, and it's a free kick. Anthony Taylor, the referee, just shaking his head. Newcastle players are asking the question about that challenge by Van Hecker, sliding in on Willock.
He slid across him with his head. The centre-half's come in and he's bravely gone in with his head on Willock. It looks like he's taken Willock out with his shoulder. He's stooped really low. I mean, he's taken one to the side of the head again, Van Hecker, this time from Willock's knee. I think there's everybody claiming for everything at the moment. The referee's under that much pressure. He's getting pressure from whether it's the players, the officials.
Yeah, Kieran Trippier, I see, with his coat on, he's been substituted. He's talking to the fourth official. They knew what they were doing when they appointed Anthony Taylor to this one. You need as strong a referee as possible. And Anthony Taylor resisted whatever temptation there was to show another card there. Target with this free kick to the edge of the Brighton box. Byrne got his head to it, headed away by Pedro, back over the top by Murphy. Wilson gets up, flicked on by Willock, headed away by Van Hecker. Brighton might be off on the counter-attack. Druder works it forward to Pedro, then Tonali and the recovering Willock. Pedro and Willock shoulder to shoulder. Pedro goes down and Newcastle come out with the ball. And Target says to Murphy, chase that. And then in comes the sliding challenge from FIFA to put that out of play for a Newcastle throw down the right. 2 minutes left of the first period of extra time. 5 Live in the World Service. Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. It's been a pulsating FA Cup tie, I think we can say that. That might come out of the glossary as well, as Tonali has it in the middle of the half. Square towards Byrne. Now Willock. Willock back to Tonali. Tonali with yellow shirts behind the ball, comes back to Tonali. Tonali square to Willock. Willock looks to his left to Target. Target controls it on his left foot, but the cross is blocked and bounces away off Gruder. Back to Dan Byrne, and then Newcastle again. Tonali, right-footed cross from him over Wilson, but bounces beyond the far post by a distance, by 2 or 3 yards. Goal kick Brighton, 1-1.
They've had the most success, Newcastle, when they work it wide into those wide areas with Willock and Murphy. With Callum Wilson up there, they've lost that threat of Isak in behind, so they're having to play in front of Brighton, which they're quite happy with. But this is the way that this first half of extra time is panning out. One team will attack, then they'll change, they'll swap possession, the other team will drop into a low defensive block. Brighton have looked the sharper though in this second period.
In the Premiership in Scotland, still Aberdeen 0, Dundee United 2. Be into the second half of that shortly. Hibs beat Hearts 2-1. Manchester United, Fulham to come. That's on BBC One later, 6:06. We'll start round about 5 o'clock here on 5 Live. And there will be a news special, by the way, at 7 with Stephen Nolan. Gruder winning the ball back for Brighton on the edge of the Newcastle box. Turns onto his foot. Square to Pedro. Pedro shot half deflected. Double deflect across the box. And a relieved Dubravka is able to sprint off his line and grab the ball. And Newcastle survive another scare.
It's all getting scrappy, isn't it? Both teams not wanting to lose this game. Bodies on the line. Blocks going in defensively. Dubravka does well.
1 minute of added time at the end of this first period of extra time. Newcastle on the attack with Willock, but Brighton are back in position. Target receives it, his cross hits the back of March and bounces out for another throw to Newcastle. Level with the edge of the Brighton penalty area. Target waits to take this throw, then takes it into Bruno Guimaraes, who slips, and that means that Brighton are back in possession. Gruder is able to take it away. Byrne, though, goes down, tackles the ball out of play. It's caught cleanly by the Brighton manager, Fabian Hürzeler, who gives the ball to March. 20 seconds of this minute of added time to play. March delays the taking of the throw, and then will hurl it down the line. Solly March. Byrne for Newcastle. Target wins a throw-in of his own, cleverly actually, off Gruder, and a throw-in to Newcastle.
I think he's struggling, Dan Byrne, the big centre half. He's playing left of the 3 at the moment. He's had to chase Danny Welbeck in a couple of times as the referee blows up.
Yeah, well, they can make another change in extra time. Just watching him, just pulling his socks up there, and Fabian Schär walking across to see how he is. So half-time in extra time here on Tyneside. It is Newcastle United 1, Brighton 1.
And we'll be back with the two of you very, very shortly. There's been a try at Headingley, Leeds Rhinos, Castleford Tigers, Matt Newsom.
Well, we've got 37 minutes left of this game and it's already over. Leeds 24, Castleford 0. Castleford offered very little. Brilliant slicing move from Leeds. Finished off in goal this time by Jack Sinfield, a famous name that you might well have heard of before. 24-0, Leeds lead Cass.
There's still a long time to go, a whole half of football, but Chelsea, remember, unbeaten under Sonia Bonpastor. Do they still trail at Brighton, Paul Scott?
Yeah, we've played 70 seconds of the second half. It's still Brighton 2, Chelsea 1. Chelsea taking the lead through Sandy Baltimore in the 16th minute. 6 minutes later, Marissa Olislaga's made it 1-1. And then a couple of minutes before half-time, Vicky Losada, the Brighton captain, made it 2-1 to Brighton. Chelsea, as you mentioned, they've only dropped 2 points in the WSL so far this season, but they are trailing at the start of the second half here. Brighton 2, Chelsea 1.
Full times, Tottenham 1, Manchester City 2, Palace 0, Liverpool 1, Villa 0, Everton 2 and Manchester United 2, Leicester 0. In the Scottish Premiership earlier, Hibs 2, Hearts 1, and at half-time Aberdeen 0, Dundee United 2. In the cricket, New Zealand lead 55 off 34 to beat India. This is the last game of the pool stage of the Champions Trophy. Whoever wins that game will be the only team with a perfect record, but they are 195 for 8, so looks like India on their way to victory. 5 Sports Extra for the commentary. Whoever goes out of the FA Cup at St James's Park this afternoon will think it was there for us this afternoon. The second half of extra time. Paul Robinson and John Murray.
Yes, that sums it up very well, Steve. As Anthony Taylor gathers the players back together. They used to switch straight around at half-time and extra time, but we've had full impromptu massages. I can smell the liniment in the air. Tino Livramento is having both thighs massaged. We've had team talks, we've had drinks, and now underway in the second period of extra time with the score Newcastle United 1, Brighton 1 for a place in the last 8 of the FA Cup as Tonali, with Newcastle attacking towards the Gallagate end in this second period. Tonali goes the other way back to goalkeeper Dubravka, who made an exceptional save from Gomez in extra time to keep it at 1-1.
It's the best chance, isn't it? You take the second half of the game into consideration. First half of extra time, that's the first clear-cut save that a goalkeeper's had to make. There's a couple of chances in the open play in the second half, Newcastle, without troubling the goalkeeper. But that was a really good save by Dubravka. Not had a lot to do, had to keep his concentration. Ball came through bodies. A strong hand down to his right-hand side.
Yep, all the FA Cup clips and highlights you can find on the BBC Sport website and app on the iPlayer as well, as Schär hits a long pass forward, but that bounces all the way through to Verbruggen. So it looks as though they've patched Dan Burn up, doesn't it?
He's still struggling along, isn't he? He looks like he's lumbering along at the far side, I should say. He's certainly not moving freely.
But there are no central defenders on the bench. Longstaff is on the bench as Bruno Guimaraes is playing it back to Schär, and Schär's right-footed ball over the top that drops into the path of Jacob Murphy. Murphy pulls it back on his left foot. Bruno Guimaraes is behind him. Murphy again, he's closed down by Vifa. Then Bruno Guimaraes back again. Tonali's on the right-hand side, took up a very intelligent position there. Tonali, and wins the throw-in off Vifa. Bounces out of play 5 or 6 yards back from the corner flag.
It's about concentration as much as anything at this stage of extra time, isn't it? There's a lot of tired minds, a lot of tired legs out there, and it's the team who doesn't make mistakes.
It's a match that started in glorious early spring sunshine. It might end in rain. Very grey clouds now appearing over the roof of the Gallagate end to our right. The Newcastle city centre beyond. But all eyes here on Murphy with his deep right-footed cross. It's over the top of target and bounces down towards the corner flag with Solly March chasing him. Target tries to turn against him, but March puts the tackle in. It's out of play. Target takes the throw into the penalty area to Wilson, who had his back to goal. Tonali's going to have a shot at goal, but it's blocked on the edge of the area. Good block as well, which took it away at right angles and out of play for a throw-in. Newcastle starting the second period of extra time, the stronger Paul Robinson.
That's some good blocks that Adam Webster's put in today. The early one very early in the first half from Alexander Isak, when it looked certain Isak would score from a header. Webster got his body between ball and the goal, and he does it again there in front of Tonali.
Yeah, he's a good no-nonsense central defender. No Lewis Dunk still for Brighton as Newcastle come forward, and Willock has a goal from a very tight angle, and for Bruggen there just made sure, diving and pushing it round the near post.
Didn't take any chances for Bruggen. He said it's a really tight angle for Willock, almost 3 or 4 yards off the byline, smashes out the goal. It's on target. Goalkeeper takes no chances, palms it round for a corner.
So a corner for Newcastle that is going to be taken by Target. Target just steps 3 or 4 yards back. Newcastle pack the 6-yard box. 1-1. Target curls it in. Little glance. Wilson cleared away though. Tonali with a shot. That's blocked by Vifa inside the area. Byrne jumps for it on the edge of the area. Comes back to Target. He tries a shot and it's straight for Bruggen, who drops down to gather it up into his chest. I'm smiling there because he's never scored for Newcastle. Target.
That one only just reached the goalkeeper. You can see why.
Exactly. Hence the chuckle. Never mind. It was worth a goal. Certainly in that position.
It's a good strike from Tonali. Another good block this time. This time it was Weaver, I think. Tonali on the half volley, 12 yards out. Struck it really, really well. Weaver put his body in the way.
Newcastle 1, Brighton 1. Champions Trophy match continues on Sports Extra. Arsenal, West Ham in the WSN will be on there later. Manchester United, Fulham, will update you on it on 5 Live, but you can watch that on Match of the Day, quarter-final draw. After that, Brighton, one of 5 teams still in the FA Cup this season that have never won it before. Here is Webster. Webster 10 yards inside the Newcastle half. Little ball to Vifa, who will go back into the centre circle to Hinchelwood. Hinchelwood then square to Van Hecke. The boos for his part in the Gordon sending off have just about faded away now. Van Hecke. Here's Danny Welbeck. Welbeck back to Webster. Brighton are just trying to gain a measure of control on the match again. Brighton coming into this full of confidence, having won their last 4 matches since the 7-0 against Nottingham Forest. Now they have the ball on the right-hand side. That's excellent work from March, who works his way to the dead ball line, but the cross runs all the way across here to where Pedro has been bundled over by Cher, and that's a free kick to Brighton on the left wing.
It's a strange decision that by Cher. He really didn't need to make that challenge. The ball was running out of play towards us. João Pedro with his back to goal, and Cher just charges right into the back of him. Gives Brighton a free kick with an opportunity where they can put the ball into the box.
If you weren't listening earlier, right towards the end of the 90 minutes, actually into added time, Fabian Cher brilliantly volleyed the ball into the back of the Brighton net. St James's Park thought that was it, thought the tie had been won by Cher, but the goal was ruled out by the semi-automated offside. So Newcastle have had to get going again. That was shortly after Tariq Lamptey was sent off, so both Gordon and Lamptey sent off. Gordon is going to miss the Carabao Cup final in a fortnight because of that red card. And it's a free kick to Brighton now. That Danny Welbeck has gained a yard here, even though I can see the spray on the ground. Footballers,
gamesmanship, time consuming.
Goes back, Welbeck plays it to Gruda, square from him, Gomez plays a ball across the penalty area. Byrne got his head to it, bounces down. Target is underneath it for Newcastle, volleys it forward. This is for Wilson to chase. Callum Wilson though loses out to Gomez, and then in comes Bruno Guimaraes with a challenge to deflect it out of play. Throw in given, he takes it quickly. Now Joe Willock takes it forward down the left-hand side. Willock plays it past the defender. Willock to the dead ball line, back onto his right foot, pulls the ball to the edge of the area. Tonali in the D, square from him to Murphy. Little ball into the box. Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali and Murphy. Murphy's cross is blocked by the defender. Vifa still not out of play. Tonali receives it from Murphy. Tonali turns. Bruno Guimaraes is there. Back to Tonali in the box. Tonali's ball across, hits Wilson, deflected into his face, shot back across the penalty area from Bruno Guimaraes. That's cleared by Brighton, and Newcastle are given the ball back. Livramento to target there on the left-hand side. They do look tired now, I must say. Tonali, it was a tired shot by Bruno Guimaraes. Tonali's ball to Murphy. Murphy takes on Vifa. Left-footed ball into the penalty area. That's blocked by Webster. Comes out to Tonali, who will take it down. And his ball across. Double deflection off Verbruggen and Wilson. But Vifa's able to volley it up. Not completely clear. And then Vifa underneath it. And Pedro volleys it downfield. And Brighton have survived that little period of pressure. Dubravka is a long way out of his penalty area and plays it forward to Pedro, and Pedro against Livramento, and then Pedro uses Gruda, and Welbeck's making a run through the middle, and now this could open up here for Brighton. Solly March, 30 yards out, March's ball into the area, Welbeck, lovely turn, and dinks it in! Danny Welbeck for Brighton, that could have won the tie! Danny Welbeck stands on the advertising hoardings, the man who scored the winner in the Premier League for Brighton here earlier this season might just have won this cup tie for Brighton and Hove Albion. Newcastle 1, Brighton 2, super finish, Danny Welbeck.
Oh, it's a wonderful finish by Danny Welbeck, and those Brighton supporters up in the rafters have just gone mad. It's a brilliant play by March again. Turnover of possession, Dubravka loses the ball, Brighton make no mistake in moving the ball forward very, very quickly. Sonny March cuts inside, he plays it to Welbeck. There looked to be a hint of offside, but he's clearly onside. He's Danny Welbeck. Dubravka comes rushing out on the angle. Welbeck looks like he's going to put his foot through it. He doesn't. He puts his foot under it. He dinks it over the on-rushing goalkeeper. It gives Brighton the most unlikeliest of leads.
Danny Welbeck, great poise there, right side of the penalty area, took a touch and then just lifted it over Dubravka. And with 5 minutes to play, it's Newcastle United 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 2, and Brighton now just minutes away from knocking out Newcastle here at St James's Park and winning through to the last 8 of the FA Cup.
Danny Welbeck with his 8th of the season, and it was a cultured finish. We know where he is in his career, you know the goals that come with Danny Welbeck. Such a quality finish. The referee's holding it up now. VAR is checking for offside, but we've seen the replay. It looks onside, and it was a quick check. The goal's been given. It was a lovely ball through to him by March, but what a composed finish at this stage of the game. He didn't rush it, he didn't put his foot through it. He looked up, he saw Dubravka coming, and he just dinked it over the goalkeeper.
History repeating itself. Welbeck scoring the winner here against Newcastle in the Premier League in October, and now might well have just fired his team into the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. Still time for Newcastle though. Tonali, this is asking a lot now though. These tired players, you can tell from the body language, but Willock turns away into the box. Willock now against Van Hecke. Van Hecke is able to block that out into the full-back position, tussling with Willock, who got there first. Then Van Hecke again in with a tackle, the ball stays in play, and it's cleared away downfield by Solly March to the halfway line. Danny Welbeck, who came on and scored the winner so brilliantly against Bournemouth on Tuesday night in the Premier League. That was an excellent finish as well, wasn't it? You know, he has still got that touch, Danny Welbeck. As you say, Paul, his 8th goal of the season for Brighton, which is a personal best for him in what is now his 5th season at Brighton in terms of goals per season for them. Here's Bruno Guimaraes, turns infield, then back out. Target with the shot, that is blocked by the first Brighton player. Gruda out of play, groans from the Gallagate end. Throw is taken back to Dan Burn. This will be some win for Brighton if they're able to hang on here. Burn with a deep cross to the back post. Wilson's there, but Webster gets up high and heads it behind corner Newcastle.
This is it now, isn't it? It's just going to be attack versus defence. Everybody's in that defensive third of Brighton. Everybody is in the Brighton half, bar Dubravka, who I suspect, if it continues much longer like this and there's corners, he too will join them.
But Danny Welbeck making the difference. 34-year-old Danny Welbeck. Corner to Newcastle from the right. Target into the 6-yard box. Verbruggen gets a good punch on that. Comes out to Tonali. Tonali takes it down, gives it to Burn. Burn with a drive right across the face of goal through a crowd of players. Didn't get a touch. beyond the far post, goal kick.
That's brilliant by Tonali. The ball's cleared by Verbruggen. He punches it clear, edge of the box. Tonali takes it down. It looks like he's going to rush it, take it on the half volley, drags it onto his left foot, and he finds Dan Burn in acres of space on the angle. He smashes it across the goal, misses everybody. How? I don't know. The penalty box is absolutely packed. Goes harmlessly wide of the far post. Time's ticking for Newcastle.
The Brighton supporters way up top, looking to our left. They're in the top tier of the Leazes end. They're already singing their songs and twirling their blue and white scarves, anticipating their team what a win this would be. To win here against the Carabao Cup finalists. Murphy in danger of losing possession. Welbeck though has tripped him, and it's a free kick to Newcastle. 2 minutes to play. 2 minutes of added time between Brighton and a place in the last 8. Target now taking the ball on and playing it forward towards Willock. Van Hecke comes across, goes to ground. Excellent tackle into the Newcastle player, and it deflects out of off the pitch, and he gets a high five from Hinchelwood for that tackle.
He's not going to be welcome back in Newcastle anytime soon, Van Hecke, but he's been excellent this afternoon. He really has, from a Brighton point of view. The partnership of him and Webster, they've been fairly solid together. They made important tackles, Webster important blocks, and Van Hecke important challenges.
Throw in for Brighton, up towards the halfway line, headed further forward by Hinchelwood. I'll make it, we've got 1 minute of extra time to go. The Brighton winner, the Welbeck winner, coming in the 114th minute. Here is Murphy for Newcastle on the right. Murphy takes on Welbeck, but has to play it back to Bruno Guimaraes. Bruno Guimaraes, packed defence now, 10 against 10, remember. Guimaraes drives it on into the full-back position. In comes the challenge from Vifa. He recaptures possession. Bruno Guimaraes dinks it across to the back post. It's over the top of Byrne. Comes out to Tonali, left side of the area. Tonali square, but Cher couldn't arrive on it quickly enough. He got there at the same time as Van Hecke and fouled him. The Brighton man going down. It's a free kick to the visitors.
Brilliant again by Van Hecke. Gets his foot in, makes the challenge. Looks like Schär was just about to strike the ball goalwards. Van Hecke gets the ball cleanly just before Schär, and he hits Van Hecke instead of the ball. Excellent defending again by Van Hecke. Gives Brighton a chance to get all the bodies up the field, and Verbruggen will go long.
Brighton hold out there. They haven't held out in the WSL match, where it is now Brighton 2, Chelsea 2. Lauren James has equalised for Chelsea. Free kick, 2 minutes of added time, that's it. Brighton are 2 minutes away from the quarter-finals. Long ball forward for them from that free kick. Cher heads it forward for Newcastle. Bounces out of play off Diego Gomez for a throw-in to Eddie Howe's side. Eddie Howe comes out, pointing his players forward. Only seconds left. Bruno Guimaraes to target. They cross the halfway line, Newcastle United. Now Willock out there on the left wing. Willock stabs it in field to Bruno Guimaraes. Back to Willock, who's in the box now on the left. Up against March. Willock goes for goal and curls it right across the face and beyond the far post and behind. Goal kick.
I think that was a lot further away from goal than the sound inside the stadium suggested. Willock cuts in on his right foot. He goes for the far post. Goes harmlessly wide, well wide of the far post of Verbruggen. Good opportunity for Newcastle. I think the cross would have been a better option in that situation.
Newcastle United have got a cup final in a fortnight's time, but they've got just a minute left in the FA Cup for this season, unless they can come up with a goal, a late goal. Here is the man who's probably scored the winning goal, Welbeck. Back to Vifa, who's just launched it forward down next to the corner flag. So Newcastle have to go and get it and then launch what might be their last attack. Murphy forward to Byrne. Hinchelwood volleys it back. Tonali now halfway inside his own half. 30 seconds of time left. Fabian Herzler is urging Pedro just to get back down the field and help out his teammates. It's 10 against 9 without Pedro. Still Newcastle attack. Murphy takes it out wide. Oh, good looking cross from Murphy, but Verbruggen too close to him, who's able to come out, watch it carefully, catch it, drop down and stay down, and that might be it.
Good goalkeeping by Verbruggen. Really good ball in by Murphy that time, but Verbruggen come off his line. Confident shout of keepers, you could hear it from here. He's back forward, absolutely love that. He's gone to ground, he's taken all the time that he needs now.
Verbruggen The Brighton fans waiting for the final whistle, which comes now. The Brighton players, arms in the air. The Brighton fans, 1,100 of them, are dancing up in the stands. And Brighton have knocked out Newcastle. Newcastle United, who'll be in a cup final in a fortnight's time, but they'll go no further in the FA Cup, out in the 5th round. And Brighton win it with that excellent finish from Danny Welbeck. Winning goal scorer here at St James's Park for Brighton for the 2nd time this season. 2-1 after extra time, Brighton.
Never write off the FA Cup because it serves up things like that. What a brilliant cup competition, and what a fantastic FA Cup game that was. For the neutral, that was a brilliant watch. There was 2 teams going at it, trying to win a game, and it was decided on a piece of quality. That game probably deserved to go to penalties. Neither side deserved to lose that. It had everything. We had goals, we had sending-offs, we had big decisions, and Danny Welbeck's goal at the end was just a touch of quality. And these Brighton players really are celebrating on the pitch. The FA Cup means a lot to them.
2 managers named strong teams, Paul, for this match, this All Premier League tie, and it really felt as though it did mean so much to them both.
Well, it does. You can see the dejection on the black and white half of Newcastle, and the yellow shirts of the Brighton, the players and the staff, the whole bunch of staff below us that are celebrating, the way the players are celebrating with the supporters high up in the rafters to our left. FA Cup certainly hasn't lost its magic. We said there's 2 teams here that lay Premier League sides. As you can probably gather, Anthony Taylor's making his way off the pitch beneath us, but 2 Premier League sides which meant everything to them this game. They went toe-to-toe in what was a brilliant game. Neither deserved to lose.
Yes, an unmoved, stern-faced Anthony Taylor just disappears out of our sight. He's booed off by the Newcastle fans, showing a red card to Anthony Gordon, which means that the Newcastle man will be suspended for the Carabao Cup final. But the Brighton and Hove Albion players, the delight when the final whistle went there, and they've been running and skipping across the turf to celebrate with their fans who are way up in the stands. Brighton and Hove Albion, who've never won the FA Cup, have never won one of the great domestic trophies of the English game. Brighton are into the last 8, and with the season that they're having under Fabian Hürzeler, they have to have more than a chance of doing that this season. And 5, 6, 7, 8 of their players now punching the air up towards their supporters. So Newcastle out, Brighton are through. Newcastle 1, Brighton 2 after extra time here on Tyneside.